The episode kicks off with Kim spilling his guts to this AI robot, talking about how his life's a living hell and how he absolutely hates his job. But hey, he's stuck doing it anyway. Does the robot care? Nope, it doesn't give a damn. Just like the middle child in a family, Kim's completely ignored. The AI robot just leaves him hanging, and Kim's left feeling even more depressed. We find out that the robot's name is Pax, and Kim's feeling betrayed because even Pax won't talk to him. Out of nowhere, another AI robot strolls up and tells Kim to move aside because it's got a package to transport. He steps aside, and the robot takes the package and goes. Kim's sinking deeper into his depression, feeling like he's on the edge of madness. He needs real human interaction, the warmth of a person, not cold machines. You don't want your girlfriend to be a robot, do you? Complete the like goal of 4,100 and please subscribe if you're new. I only need your like and subscribe to keep going. The scene zooms out and we see this massive Logitech warehouse with drones flying around and AI robots doing all the work, packaging, delivering, the whole 9 yards. And there's Kim, managing these machines, barking out orders. He glances up and thinks, man, I've really ended up in the wrong place. Then we get the backstory. It all started 2 months ago, right after Kim got discharged from the military. He was ecstatic about getting out, but that happiness didn't last long. His parents called him up and told him they'd moved to another city and left the old house behind. They paid for 6 months of rent on a place for Kim and basically told him, go live your life, make money, be successful. That was the day Kim's hellish life began. At first, Kim was loving it. No parents to nag him, 6 months of rent paid in advance, and a little nest egg from his savings. He figured he'd coast for a bit, maybe land a part-time job at a cafe, meet some girls, and just enjoy life. But the world wasn't that kind. Every cafe he walked into told him the same thing. Gotta have a year's experience, or gotta be really handsome, or better yet, gotta be a girl. Kim's dreams of chatting with girls at a cafe job crushed. So he started applying for other jobs, but one by one, the rejections piled up. 2 months later, his savings were drying up, and depression hit him hard. Feeling useless, Kim messaged his sisters, telling them he felt like the biggest loser in the world. And what did his sisters do? Made fun of him, of course. He's so lazy he's got them saved in his phone as Sister Hash 1 and Sister Hash 2. But Sister Hash 2 had an idea. She had a friend who could get him a job at the biggest delivery agency around. And that's how Kim ended up working at Amazonia. Kim's standing there, still looking up, thinking he can't believe this is his life now, delivering packages in a warehouse full of robots. His partner's a machine, and in return, he doesn't even get a decent conversation. Just as he's lost in thought, his manager walks up and Kim tenses up. The manager says they're out of tuna cans, but the AI system shows the storehouse is fully stocked. He tells Kim to go check the warehouse. Kim smiles on the outside, but inside, yeah, we all know how miserable he feels, but what else can he do? He heads to the warehouse and starts hunting for tuna cans. After a while, he finds them, climbs a ladder, grabs a box, and just as he's about to head down, bam! He hears a loud noise. Kim spins around and sees the 10-inch thick iron door slam shut. His heart sinks. He runs to the door, grabs the handle, and tries to yank it open, but no luck. In a panic, he calls his manager, but no answer. Now Kim's frustrated. He thinks about calling 911, but decides against it. Maybe it's just a technical glitch. He's not locked in a freezer or anything. It's not like he's going to run out of oxygen anytime soon. No need to blow this out of proportion, right? If he calls 911 for something small like this, his manager might flip out. So Kim waits, but he's bored. He snaps a selfie, sends it to Sister Hash 2, and tells her he's stuck in the warehouse. He figures he'll wait until evening, and if nobody shows up, then he'll call 911. She laughs, but then suddenly texts back, saying a building outside her place collapsed. Now Kim's stressed. He tries calling his sister, but she's not picking up. He's starting to get a bad feeling, and just as he's trying to process everything, the ground starts shaking and his phone falls to the floor. The warehouse alarm blares and an AI voice screams for all employees to evacuate immediately. Kim's heart is racing. He starts banging on the iron door, screaming, "I'm still in here! Open the door!" But nothing. 2 minutes pass and he gets no response. Desperate, he decides it's time to call 911, but when he grabs his phone, there's no signal. Kim's mind is racing. He's thinking, has the war started? Is the other country dropping bombs? He's trying to figure out what the hell's going on, but before he can, he hears a thud from outside the door. Kim freezes. His eyes go wide, something slamming against the 10-inch iron door, and it's bending like it's made of cardboard. Kim's hands start shaking. Whatever's on the other side of that door? It's not human. Seeing this, Kim gets real scared. His hands start shaking violently. At that moment, Kim realizes that whatever's happening is getting real scary. He hears the sound of a horn from outside. If Kim makes any noise, his death is certain. He stands still like a statue, frozen in place. Kim knows that whoever is on the other side of that door is not human. He starts sweating out of fear. Kim sits down on the floor, terrified. He's praying that whatever is happening will just end soon. Kim thinks this must be a nightmare. He tells himself, once I open my eyes, it'll all be over. But sadly, this isn't a dream. Kim falls asleep there, and when he wakes up, he's still in the same warehouse. It's packed with food and resources, so Kim grabs a box of tuna and starts eating it. Turns out it's been 3 days since Kim got trapped in that warehouse. No one's come to save him, and despite trying to call again and again, there's still no network. Kim realizes something big is going on outside, but he has no idea what. He's confused, wondering, is there a war going on? The alarm that was blaring loud for days has gone quiet since yesterday, so at least now Kim can sleep. But he's thinking, how long can I last here? His battery is about to die too. If he stays trapped, he's done for. Kim's just sitting there praying that his sister's mom and dad are safe. He hopes some soldier will come and rescue him. But then, out of nowhere, a notification pops up in front of his eyes. It says, "You have been chosen. Check your awakened ability." A holographic notification hovers in front of him, and another one soon follows. It says Kim's special ability is subspace, and that he can store any object in front of him inside this subspace, but he can only use it once. Seeing this, Kim smiles, a little crazy, and says, "Finally, I've lost my mind." After being alone for months and now trapped for 3 days, it feels like Kim has finally gone mad. He can't even tell the difference between fantasy and reality anymore, but with a smile, he thinks, hey, lasting 3 days in this situation is impressive. If he's really gone mad, might as well act like it, right? Kim sees it says he can store anything in his subspace, so he says, I want to store this entire logistics warehouse. The system confirms, and when Kim says yes, the entire warehouse disappears. Kim suddenly falls to the ground with a bang. He's confused. He gets up, looks around, and is shocked to see that the sky has turned yellow. All the trucks are upside down, and then he sees his boss lying dead, crushed by something big, with his guts spilling out. Seeing this, Kim feels disgusted. He almost pukes, and then he does. While this is happening, the system notifies Kim that the storing has begun. An operating system suitable for Kim has been found, but because he put such a big object in his subspace, it'll take time for the whole logistics center to be fully stored. We see a progress bar showing 6%, but Kim's too busy puking to care. Suddenly he hears loud footsteps approaching. Kim sees a huge shadow behind him. It's the same growling sound he heard when the doors were slamming loudly before. Now Kim knows there's a monstrous creature standing behind him. We see it, a 15-foot-tall orc with big teeth, red eyes, and blood all over its body, standing right behind Kim. He's drenched in sweat. Kim keeps telling himself, calm down. That noise could just be a gorilla or a bear. Maybe it's just a wild animal, right? Without looking back, Kim starts running, thinking, whatever it is, it's not focused on me yet. If I run, maybe I can get away. But as soon as Kim takes off, the orc growls loudly. Kim glances back, and as soon as he does, his eyes go wide, because a real monster orc is chasing after him. Kim starts screaming, running even faster, but his foot slips in his boss's blood and guts, and he nearly wipes out. He's freaking out, unable to process what an orc or some fantasy monster is doing here. He doesn't understand what's happening, and the orc is closing in fast. If this keeps up, the orc's gonna catch him in just a few seconds. Kim realizes his death is inevitable. But suddenly, the system notification pops up again. It says, synchronization complete, you can now enter your subspace. The orc is just a few feet away. Kim yells, yes! Without thinking, and a portal opens in front of him. Just as the orc raises its hand to grab him, the portal sucks Kim inside. Now, Kim's standing inside the portal, eyes closed, thinking, am I in heaven? But when he opens his eyes, he's shocked. The orc is still there, staring at him from the other side of the portal, but it can't come in. With a shocked face, Kim asks, why can't it get inside? Just then, a drone flies in and explains that no one can enter the subspace except Kim. Without his permission, no one can get in. Kim's stunned by how human-like the drone is. He looks around and realizes he's standing in the logistics center where he used to work. Damn! Kim just unlocked Amazon. Domain expansion. Kim was confused and amazed. He asked the system, Did you really put the entire Logitech facility inside my subspace, or are the subspace and the warehouse merged? The system confirmed it. Yes, the entire place was now inside his subspace. The same robots were all there, moving like nothing happened. Then the system announced, "Since you've entered the subspace for the first time, you'll receive a reward for completing the tutorial." A 1-mana stone materialized in Kim's hand, but before he could even figure out what the hell it was, the monster outside started slamming against the portal. The noise startled him, and for a moment Kim almost forgot he was being chased by a fucking monster. The orc growled, drooling, staring at Kim with bloodlust. It couldn't wait to tear him apart. Panicking, Kim frantically shouted, "Are you sure the monsters can't get in?" The system calmly confirmed that nothing could enter the subspace without his permission. Then the system window flashed again, stating that the PAX Fulfillment Center was a 5-story building, covering 33,000 square meters. It had every product needed to improve customers' lives, with a shipping speed of 60 kilometers per hour and a shipment size limit of 2 meters per package. Kim blinked, just as clueless as we are, and muttered, "What the hell does shipping speed even mean at 60 kilometers per hour? But before he could make sense of it, the system further confused him, revealing there were only 2 minutes left until maintenance. "Wait, what?" Kim asked, confused and a bit worried. "Is the whole logistics center going to shut down after 2 minutes?" The drone confirmed this, but added that he could use the Mana Stone to supply energy and keep the facility running. Since Kim had just 1 Mana Stone, it would power the entire place for the next 24 hours. Kim was blown away by the efficiency of the stone, but the drone quickly explained that when the PAX Fulfillment Center was stored inside the subspace, the energy system had been modified to fit its new environment. "So this whole facility runs on Mana Stones?" Kim asked, skeptical. "Is this real or is this just some sci-fi bullshit?" Before the drone could respond, the lights suddenly went out and the drone started flashing warning signals. The PAX system chimed in, explaining that the energy supply to the facility had been cut off, and if it wasn't restored soon, PAX Fresh products would start rotting. PAX Fresh was responsible for storing and delivering everything from fresh vegetables to meat, all kept in frozen and refrigerated conditions. Kim glanced back at the monster, glaring at him through the portal, and realized that the outside world was basically a war zone. In this situation, food was crucial for survival. With the freezers and refrigerators losing power, it was a huge problem. "Is the Mana Stone really a substitute for electricity?" Kim asked, not entirely convinced. The drone confirmed it, so Kim asked the next obvious question. "How do I get more Mana Stones?" The drone replied in a matter-of-fact tone, "You can obtain Mana Stones from beings of another world." Well, that wasn't exactly comforting. Our boy Kim was not thrilled at the idea of fighting some muscle-bound monster that could rip him apart like paper. "Use the Mana Stone for now," Kim sighed, giving in, and then he bolted into the facility to grab some weapons. Once inside, he picked up a handful of weapons, and the system flashed the price for each. He started worrying about running out of supplies if he just threw everything at the monster. Plus, he wasn't even sure if these blades could penetrate the monster's thick skin, so he came up with a plan. He'd focus on wounding the monster gradually. Since the orc couldn't enter the subspace, Kim didn't need to take it down in one go. He just had to injure it, save his resources, and avoid running out of weapons too soon. With all his strength, Kim threw an axe at the monster. It grazed its skin, and the orc roared, now even angrier. Seeing the monster getting even more rage-filled, Kim started to panic, but he kept going. He threw 13 more heavy axes, but nothing happened. Not a single dent on the beast. His plan wasn't working, and he realized he was running low on weapons. Desperate, he asked Pax how many axes were left in stock. While Pax was busy gathering the info, Kim thought to himself, should I throw a bowling ball? Maybe he should aim for the dangling flesh on the orc. Yeah, that might do some damage. But then Pax shocked Kim with the response. There are 15 more heavy axes remaining. Wait, what? Kim said, baffled. He had just counted. There were only 15, and he'd already used 14. That meant there should only be one left. He quickly asked for the location of these extra axes. Once Kim reaches the storage area, he's shocked to see 15 axes scattered all over the floor. He questions why there are 15 axes when there should only be one. Pax explains in its calm, robotic tone that this is one of Kim's abilities. He can duplicate any item inside his subspace, except mana stones. This revelation hits hard. If what Pax says is true, then Kim has access to infinite stocks of weapons. The system confirms it, leaving Kim relieved. He doesn't need to worry about running out of weapons ever again. He could just toss axes at the monster all day long without depleting his stock. Feeling a bit cocky, Kim jokes to Pax, saying, "At this rate, my shoulder's gonna give out before this thing dies." Pax, ever the helpful system, suggests something interesting. Why don't you try the automatic shipment system? Pax explains that Kim can ship one object every 30 seconds, and if he wants to reduce the shipment time, he can upgrade his subspace level using mana stones. Kim's like, "Wait, what? Ship an axe to the orc? How?" Pax calmly responds, "All you have to do is think about the axe, then shout, 'Ship.'" Kim's like, "All right, let's give it a shot." He thinks about the axe, yells, "Ship," and before he even knows what's happening, the axe rockets through the portal like a bullet, landing right in the middle of the orc's face, killing it instantly. Kim stands there, stunned, his eyes wide open. He's just unlocked Amazonia Prime service on beast mode. Finally, he understands what that 60-kilometer-per-hour shipment speed was all about. Pax then reveals that Kim can adjust the speed, maxing out at 60 kilometers per hour. To go beyond that, he'll need to enhance his skills. Naturally, Kim asks, "How do I level up these skills?" The system explains that he can do so using mana stones. At this point, Kim remembers the monster he just killed and realizes he's going to have to fight more of these creatures if he wants to advance. He doesn't waste time. He grabs some gear from the facility, starting with some lightweight combat boots for around 50,000 Korean won and tactical combat pants for about 78,000 Korean won. He also snags a detailed map of the Seoul metropolitan area and a permanent marker. With his map in hand, Kim circles the Gwangju district and marks the neighboring districts, setting a plan to work his way toward his final destination, Ijeongbu, where he hopes to find his parents. But there's one small problem. Kim's starting from Gunpo, and he doesn't even have a car. He realizes it's going to be a long journey to reach his parents. But hey, in a post-apocalyptic world, a regular bicycle is worth its weight in gold. At this point, it might as well be a Lamborghini. He hops on the bike and starts pedaling through the desolate landscape, determined to survive and find his family. After about 30 minutes, night falls, and he's managed to take down almost 12 orcs during this short journey. He then reveals to us that he has learned one valuable thing after taking down 12 orcs. But before he can explain anything about his discovery, a monster suddenly appears and tries to attack him. Kim quickly retreats into his subspace, leaving the monster outside. While the monster is immobilized, he uses his shipment ability again to deliver the axe with incredible speed. Unfortunately, the axe misses its mark slightly and only injures the monster's shoulder. To use his shipment ability again, Kim has to wait 30 seconds for the cooldown, and there's also a range limit of 10 meters. Despite these downsides, he's learned that his skills are pretty amazing and can be improved by gathering mana stones and upgrading them. Besides shipment, Pax's ability has other applications, and we will figure out soon what that is. Suddenly, the monster notices movement behind him, and when he turns around, he sees the axe flying back into the portal, and then it comes back, hitting him in the face again, sealing his fate on the spot. This is actually the second application of Pax's shipment ability, which is also known as product retrieval. It automatically brings back dispatched items, which is just as convenient as the shipment ability. Kim uses his retrieval ability once more to get the mana stone from the monster. He's kind of curious why he can't simply retrieve the mana stone like this without killing the monster. He then asks Pax the same question and learns that he can only use the retrieve skill on the stone because it belongs to him only after he kills the monster. Nevertheless, Kim steps out of his subspace and reveals to us another piece of crucial information he had learned about this apocalyptic world. Apparently, the bizarre orcs aren't the only creatures ravaging the planet. There are also winged monsters, and he knows it's going to take a lot to hunt one of those down. Suddenly, he hears cries for help. But before he can figure out who is calling, the scene transitions to a man named Choi, desperately trying to run. He's so exhausted that each step seems heavier than the last, and a flying creature is trying to hunt him down. The monster swoops in, slamming the man from behind and sending him crashing to the ground in agony. There's another person behind the injured man, but before this other guy can help his friend up, the monster lands right in front of him and blocks his path. Its ferocious mouth is drooling, as if human flesh is the most delicious thing in this area. But strangely enough, the monster doesn't attack the man standing in front of it. Instead, it turns its gaze toward Choi, who is lying on the ground, groaning in pain. The man is bewildered to see that the monster isn't attacking him and realizes that this creature was targeting Choi all along. Likely because Choi is smaller and seems like an easier target. He has no clue what to do against this giant monster to save his friend, because all he has is this little knife, and he's not sure if this knife can even be used to distract the monster. Just then, the ring of a bicycle bell echoes through the area, and not surprisingly, it's our boy speeding toward them. But these two have no idea who or what is coming their way. Before they can process what's happening, they watch in shock as the monster that was hunting them down is struck by a projectile, sending it sliding across the ground from the force of the blow. The monster was knocked down by a single throw of an axe, leaving both of the men struggling to process what they had just seen. Kim quickly checks if they are all right, but they are still in awe, their jaws hanging open as they try to grasp how someone on a bicycle managed to defeat a flying wyvern with just an axe. The two of them quickly ask Kim if he is a soldier, and they begin bowing their heads in respect, grateful for saving their lives. Kim, glad that they are safe, answers their question by pointing to his uniform. He explains that he is an employee of Paix FC, and they can see he is wearing the company's uniform. This revelation shocks them even more. They had assumed he was a seasoned soldier given his impressive skills and appearance. Even if he wasn't a soldier, his abilities are so extraordinary that if they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they'd never have believed that someone could take down a wyvern with a simple axe throw while riding a bicycle. Kim is surprised to learn that these people are familiar with the concept of abilities. One of them quickly agrees, mentioning that he has an awakened ability himself, though it's just a modest driving ability. Given the circumstances, he hasn't had a proper chance to use it. The other Choi begins to laugh and admits he feels a bit envious because he hasn't awakened any ability himself. Kim then asks if there are any other people around. Choi confirms that there are not, explaining that they are in Block C, which has a logistics center. A lot of people gathered here, but unfortunately, monsters did too. Most of the people were attacked, killed, or eaten alive. Only around 10 to 15 survivors are left, and they are relatively isolated in Block E's underground terminal. He further explains that they were looking for a road that vehicles could use, and they also wanted to gather some daily necessities, but suddenly they were attacked by the monster. The other person then suggests that instead of talking here, Kim should join them. He's welcome to come with them to their living quarters on the 4th floor of the basement. They assure him that the monsters never attacked that area, so they can sleep comfortably there. They even offer him some light snacks. Kim considers the offer, eyeing the opportunity to gather some info on the vehicles they mentioned earlier. He's desperate for any leads on how to get a functioning ride. After a moment of hesitation, he decides to accept the invitation, even though he's still unsure if he should trust them fully. As they begin to walk away, the camera pans back to the dead monster lying on the ground. That's when our boy, Kim, quickly retrieves the mana stone from inside the beast, tucking it into his subspace. He feels a surge of relief, knowing that these guys have no idea about his ability. And since Kim isn't exactly a benevolent god, he knows he's got a backup plan. If anything goes south, he can escape into his subspace without a second thought. A while later, they finally reach the basement. As they walk in, Kim's eyes widen in shock. He sees a man who looks like he's just taken down an orc all by himself. Kim's heart skips a beat. This guy is no joke. The atmosphere inside the basement is tense, and Kim starts to realize just how dangerous this place really is. He's definitely scared, but he's got to keep his cool. Choi quickly runs over to his friend, asking what happened and if everything is all right. The orc killer reassures him that everything is fine, explaining that the orc must have wandered in by accident. Fortunately, it didn't see them, so they were able to take it out easily. No one is injured, but they can no longer be sure that the place is safe. On the other hand, Kim feels a bit terrified by how dangerous this place is, but he quickly snaps out of his thoughts when the orc killer asks about him. Choi explains that Kim is the one who saved them from the wyvern and used to work for Pax FC. He also mentions that Kim is quite strong, having killed the wyvern with a thrown axe from a distance. Everyone is amazed and curious about what kind of ability he might have. At that moment, a woman rushes toward Kim, absolutely thrilled that he saved Yongsu and Choi. She's so grateful that she begins doing a happy dance. The others start to gather around him, showering him with praise. Kim tries to downplay it, saying he was just doing what he had to do. Just as our boy is getting so much attention, Choi tries to disperse the crowd, telling them not to tease the young guy. Just then, the orc killer speaks up, saying that everyone here has been working together for over 10 years, and that Yongsu and Byung-chul are like family to him. He's genuinely grateful to meet someone who saved his family and introduces himself as Lee Jin-mok, the center manager of Amazonia. He even bows his head in respect for saving his two friends. Once the pleasantries are over, Jin-mok gives Kim a brief rundown of the place. He explains that while they can't guarantee the safety of the location, it's much more comfortable than the outside world. They have food and water supplies from the logistics center, so Kim can eat as much as he wants without feeling embarrassed and can make himself at home. Jin-mok also mentions that they have plenty of supplies and can get more from the logistics center if needed. However, Yong-soo interrupts to point out that the logistics center they're talking about has suddenly disappeared. Of course, everyone is left wide-eyed and their mouths are hanging open at this absurd news. Jin-mok quickly asks, "What on earth does this even mean?" Choi confirms it again, saying it's literally gone, and explains that this is why they were chased by the wyvern. The others in the group refuse to believe this and question how such a massive building could simply disappear. Jin-mok finally comes to terms with the reality and tells his other friends that if the monsters roaming around can be real, then it's not too far-fetched to believe a building could vanish into nothingness. Meanwhile, Kim stands silently, and I'm not quite sure if the disappearance of that logistics center has something to do with our boy's subspace. Anyway, the manager tries to keep everyone calm and tells them that no matter what, they need to dig through the tunnel. If they stay here, things will only get worse. He encourages everyone not to be discouraged, saying their time has just come a little early, and they will start heading into the tunnel as soon as possible. The woman from before tries to motivate the others by reminding them that even without the logistics center, they still need to think about their next move. So she insists they must force their way through. Kim turns to the manager, asking what "force our way through" actually means. The manager explains that everyone here has homes elsewhere, and vehicles are essential for travel. However, with the roads blocked, they need to find a way through. Kim perks up at the mention of the vehicles and asks for more info. The manager confirms they do have working vehicles, but explains that all the roads are blocked. The golf course obstructs the way to the north, containers block the east, and the southern Yongdong Expressway is completely destroyed. The tunnel to the west is the only exit, but unfortunately, a group of wyverns has taken over that tunnel. Until now, everyone has been surviving by getting food and water from the logistics center, but now they have to force their way through. The manager tells Kim that he doesn't have to go through the tunnel since the blocked roads are for vehicles, and there are ways to escape on foot or by bicycle. However, Kim quickly responds that he needs a vehicle as well, and thinks it's best to go through the tunnel. The manager does not try to change our boy's mind any further, and simply says he's welcome to join them if he's up for it. Kim smiles and says he'd be glad to work with them. Kim also thinks to himself that it would be better if he kept his abilities hidden. While the group seems nice enough, he can't ignore that they've been struggling to survive while he was safe in the center. They might have run out of food and supplies, and he's sure they won't be upfront about their situation. He understands their need for secrecy and plans to stay cautious as well. He then turns to the manager and says he wants to check out the situation with the tunnel and the wyvern. He's planning to go scouting, but in reality, he just wants to use his abilities to demolish that horde of monsters and rack up some sweet mana stones. The scene then flashes back a little. After taking down a bunch of monsters, he's saved up 5 magic stones. With these, he can cut the cooldown on his shipping ability down to 5 seconds. That's when he sees 3 new shipping abilities. The first one is Precise Delivery, which, as the name suggests, locks onto the target and guarantees a hit. The second is Simultaneous Delivery, which lets him ship up to 2 items at once. The third is Automatic Delivery, which allows him to automatically deliver designated items, with the timing interval being adjustable. As cool as these sound, each one costs about 10 stones. And our guy is totally looking forward to seeing them in action, though he's still a bit unclear on what exactly Automatic Delivery does. In the present moment, he's grinning from ear to ear, thrilled that he's saved up the magic stones and looking forward to his scouting mission to earn some more. Or so he thought. His dream of purchasing fantastic abilities is quickly dashed when he finds himself stuck with Yong-soo, one of the guys he had saved earlier. When our boy asks him why he's tagging along, Young-soo says it's too dangerous to go outside alone. Kim quickly reminds Young-soo that he was the one being chased by a wyvern, but Young-soo insists it doesn't matter because he can't let him go alone. Besides, he's confident that Kim will save him again if needed. Kim then remembers Young-soo mentioning he had awakened a driver's ability, so he asks him if he can see a message window or something like that. Young-soo says he hasn't seen any message window or anything like that, but he has a gut feeling that he has indeed awakened an ability. It just hasn't fully matured yet. Well, this info isn't exactly reassuring to Kim, and he's starting to feel pretty worried. As night falls, their bike zooms down the road at insane speeds. Kim is literally sweating in fear as he watches Young-soo steer the bike with one leg while trying to balance on it. When he asks why Young-soo is driving like this, the man responds that there are so many cars on the road and it's hard to see. That's when Young-soo spots a wyvern up ahead. Kim quickly tells him to stop, since he can't see a thing. It looks like the monster has finally caught up to their presence, and as it glares at them, Young-soo asks what they should do. Just then, a projectile hits the monster, taking it down in one blow, leaving Young-soo completely baffled. Meanwhile, Kim calmly tells him to keep his head straight and not look back. While he says this, he sneakily retrieves the Mana Stone and stores it in his subspace. Finally, Young-soo points out that he can see the tunnel up ahead. He slams on the brakes, but before Kim can ask him why he stopped in the middle of the road, the reason for their abrupt halt becomes clear. They see a ton of monsters crawling around the area. Young-soo is absolutely terrified, and it wouldn't be surprising if he's already sharted in his pants. As one of the monsters starts to walk toward them, Young-soo is pretty sure their game is over. Even with the electric bikes, there's no way they can outrun this many wyverns. Just as Young-soo braces himself for the worst, Kim decides he has no choice but to use his subspace ability. He quickly calls up his system, dumps his Mana Stones to cut down the cooldown from 30 seconds to only 5 seconds. Young-soo, confused, asks what the heck he's doing, but Kim doesn't bother to explain. Meanwhile, the monster lets out a deafening roar, and every monster in the vicinity starts closing in from all directions. Just in the nick of time, Kim shouts, "Ship!" and a projectile comes crashing down, taking out the monster and saving Young-soo. Young-soo, still anxious and panicked, glances back and is left wide-eyed when he spots a huge portal behind them, and Kim was standing in front of the portal. Then we see Kim upgrading his subspace 6 times, reducing the cooldown time of shipment to just 5 seconds. Pax explains that if Kim wants to reduce the shipment time even more, he'll have to upgrade his subspace level further using Mana Stones. On the other hand, after taking down the monster, Kim quickly grabs the Mana Stones from it and tells Young-soo to stick close, because that's the only way he can keep him safe. Young-soo, still clueless about what's going on, nods and follows, though he's wondering why there's a whole logistics center behind them. Just then, more monsters show up, trying to attack Young-soo, but with Kim's Amazonia Prime service in full swing, he takes out a wyvern in one shot. But it ain't over. More wyverns show up, and this time, they're gunning for Young-soo. Thinking fast, Kim opens his subspace in front of Young-soo, acting like a shield, saving him from the attack. The monsters don't back down, though. They brutally slam into the subspace barrier, but Young-soo, caught off guard, stumbles back and falls to the ground. The monster regains its footing and charges again, but Kim slips into his subspace just in time, leaving the creature to crash into the barrier once more. The next second, an axe flies out, taking the monster down in one clean hit. Young-soo watches the whole thing in awe, as if he's just witnessed a miracle. He can't believe what he's seeing. The logistics center, the axes flying around like magic. He's starting to see Kim as something more than just a man. To him, Kim is a god, and the tunnel is just a speed bump he can handle without breaking a sweat. As Kim reflects on how everyone in the basement wanted to use the delivery vehicle to safely move food, he realizes the tunnel was just part of the plan for them. Even if they make it through, the monsters will still be out there. But for Kim, it's different. He just needs the vehicle to get from point A to point B. Handling the monsters is just another day at work. Young-soo starts feeling a little jealous, thinking how easy it would be if he had Kim's abilities. He could get to his family in no time, but what really puzzles him is why Kim, with all his power, even bothered to help him in the first place. Suddenly they notice the monsters running away. Kim smirks, fascinated. These reptiles are smarter than he thought. They know when to flee instead of charging into certain death. While Kim's retrieving the mana stones, Young-so spots a blue stone hovering in the air and asks what it is. Kim, confused, asks, "You've never seen a mana stone before?" Young-so shakes his head, so Kim explains that he uses them to enhance his abilities. Now Young-so gets it and wonders if he'll ever get a chance to try one himself. Suddenly, Kim understands why Young-so didn't even think to extract the mana stone from the orc. They didn't even know about them. Young-so, still processing everything, points out that with Kim's abilities, he could solo the entire tunnel single-handedly, so why bother coming down to the basement and meeting everyone? Kim, realizing his secret was out, stands there with an awkward smile. Young-so, misunderstanding that look, thinks Kim's real intention was to steal their resources. Kim quickly corrects him. No, I just came to check things out, see if there were people I could trust after the world went to hell. I didn't plan on clearing the tunnel, I just wanted to see if it was doable." Young-so apologizes for assuming the worst, but Kim reassures him there's no need to worry. "I didn't know the way to the tunnel anyway, so if I'd come alone, I wouldn't have made it through." "You helped more than you know," he says with a grin. Kim then suggests they head back since the wyvern has receded for now, but there's no telling when it'll attack again. That's when Young-so nervously asks how far Kim's planning to go that he needs a vehicle. Kim explains that he's trying to reach his family, and his final destination is Uijeongbu, near the Gangnam district. Hearing the word Gangnam, Young-so is startled. With a trembling voice, he says, "I'm heading to Indeokwan, which is on the way. If it's not too much trouble, can I come along with you to Indeokwan? My family's there." Kim isn't sure how to respond at first, but Young-so continues, saying he's not confident he can make it home safely on his own. "My driving ability won't help me in a fight, but with you around, we've got a better chance of getting through." Young-so promises to help Kim reach Gangnam faster than anyone else and swears he won't be a burden. He even offers to provide food along the way. Kim starts seeing some real value in this partnership. Young-so's driving skills are beyond doubt, and more importantly, if this guy is on his side, he won't spill the beans about Kim's abilities. It's a win-win situation because Kim fears that if his abilities became known, there's no telling what people might do, maybe even try to assassinate him, though that might be overthinking it. Still, better safe than sorry. So all in all, Kim finally gives Young-so the green light to tag along, and Young-so perks up like a kid in a candy store. Kim then tells him he'll handle the tunnel and makes it clear that Young-so should keep his abilities a secret. He even asks him to make sure everyone else stays out of his way. Young-so eagerly agrees, promising to ensure that everyone cooperates. He's super positive about it, ready to do his part. But things don't go as Kim hoped, because that foolish guy went ahead and told everyone that Kim would be able to break through the tunnel on his own, using his awakened abilities. All they need to do is wait outside until he's done, and then they can move forward. Kim is left wide-eyed and clueless, seeing that Young-so just spilled the beans on what was supposed to be a secret. The others are astonished by this news and are eager to see how Kim is going to pull it off. Young-so, on the other hand, is more than happy to explain, while Kim curses his rotten luck, realizing he's now in a tough spot. In the end, Kim steps up and says that by tomorrow morning, he'll have the tunnel cleared for everyone to leave. In his mind, helping them is the best plan he has, considering they still have food supplies, which should keep things relatively calm. Once the supplies run out, chaos will likely erupt among everyone, so it's wise to clear the tunnel and ensure everyone can leave safely. That's when the manager calls out to Kim, saying he won't pry into his abilities or ask any questions about them. Instead, the manager respects him for the decision he has made to help everyone. He offers some food supplies from their reserves to Kim, which leaves him quite taken aback because this much generosity is just too much. The manager explains that since Kim risked his life to scout the tunnel, all they can offer in return is a bit of food. Now that he's even clearing the tunnel for them, they feel they can't repay him enough for his kindness. They apologize, saying all they can offer right now are a few words of gratitude. Kim tries to explain that he did it for himself because he wanted to, and that they shouldn't have to go to such lengths to help him. He insists that the food must be meant for their families and tells them to keep it. Young-so, however, steps in and tells Kim to just take it, and further points out that rejecting the food would be too harsh for everyone involved. Young-so also reminds Kim that he has a family too, just like everyone else. At that moment, Kim sees how excited everyone is to reunite with their families, and it makes him feel a pang of sadness because he doesn't want to let them down. As everyone enjoys their time together, the next day arrives. When they finally reach the tunnel entrance, Kim tells everyone to stay back. He then starts pedaling his bike into the tunnel, determined to clear it out and come back. As he gets closer to the tunnel, he begins to spot the monsters. But before we see him battling them, the scene flashes back to his childhood. We see young Kim with a sore eye from a fight with his sister. He complains about it to his father, which leads to another argument with his sister, and they eventually start beating the shit out of each other in front of their father. That's when his father points out how close they seem to be. His father reflects that he was an only child, so he always envied the bond between siblings. He tells them that they have no idea how envious he is of their relationship. And even though they may argue now, they'll soon realize how truly precious family is. Suddenly, their mother bursts into the room, leading to a hearty argument between their parents. It's at this moment that Kim feels the warmth of family. The scene then transitions to the previous night, where Kim is recalling all these moments with his family after seeing how everyone is overjoyed at the prospect of finally reuniting with their families. Knowing that Kim would clear the path for them, they spent the entire night like that, basking in the warmth of anticipation. When midnight strikes and everyone falls asleep, Young-so wakes up to use the bathroom. Noticing that Kim is missing, he heads outside and asks the patrolling guards about him. They report that Kim said he was going out for some fresh air a while ago. He then walks further and looks around and finally spots Kim. He quickly asks why Kim can't just sleep, and Kim replies that he can't sleep here. Just as Young-so looks ahead, he is absolutely boggled out of his mind to see that the entire vehicle is filled to the brim with food and supplies. Young-so finds this ridiculous and quickly asks why Kim is giving away so much stuff. Kim just casually mentions that he only loaded about half to avoid making the vehicle too heavy, but this amount should be more than enough for everyone. Young-so is even more astonished when Kim says this is the last vehicle he had to load. The realization hits Young-so quite hard because if this is the last vehicle, then Kim must have packed the other 15 vehicles with the same amount of supplies as well. Kim quickly tells him to keep this a secret from everyone else. Young-so, however, points out that if Kim is giving away all of this stuff, what will they use during their journey? Kim just casually says they still have plenty of supplies left. Young-so is left astonished to hear this, realizing that the amount of supplies Kim just generously gave away is more than what you'd find in an entire logistics center. He can't fathom how much Kim must have in stock to give away so much. We return to the present, where Kim is effortlessly demolishing monsters like it's no big deal. As he fights, he thinks about how much easier it would be if he could just put all the people into his subspace and carry them to the other side. Unfortunately, his system states that with the current subspace level, it's not possible. But if he achieves subspace level 2, he could accommodate up to 20 people. To reach that level, he'd need to gather at least 100 mana stones. Kim quickly does a mental tally and notes that there are at most about 40 monsters, with a few running away. Given the numbers, leveling up here isn't feasible. He still needs to think of another way to level up, because he eventually wants to put his own family into the subspace. Suddenly, Kim notices something unusual among the fleeing monsters. A closer look reveals a jacked-up version of a wyvern, and I can tell this is some kind of boss-level monster. Even Kim isn't sure what he's dealing with. We finally cut back to the outside, where everyone is anxiously waiting for Kim to come out. Some are starting to worry if he's okay inside that tunnel. Then, they finally spot him emerging from the tunnel, effortlessly pedaling his bicycle like he's just out for a casual ride. His uniform is smeared in blood, and the group looks on anxiously. But they soon breathe a sigh of relief when they see a smile spreading across our boy's face. They burst into a joyful dance, celebrating the successful completion of their mission. Looks like it's finally time for everyone to part ways and reunite with their loved ones. They express their gratitude to the manager for sticking with them until the very end, hoping he gets home safely as well. Kim hints that if they run into any trouble, they should try opening the cargo hold, as he has prepared a little gift that might be helpful. Everyone is intrigued and curious about the gift, but they eventually get into their respective cargo trucks and start making their way through the traffic. Once they cross the tunnel, they wave their goodbyes one last time and head down their separate road. We then see Kim sitting in the passenger seat, still preoccupied with the monster he saw in the tunnel. He's unsure if it was actually a wyvern, as it fled so quickly he didn't get a good look. He starts wondering if the wyvern he spotted was a leader, or maybe just an adult version of these monsters. but his thoughts are cut off by a weird crunching noise coming from under the truck. When we look near the tires, we see the trucks have run over some dead bodies, and the driver's face is full of sadness from hearing the bones breaking. Even Kim can see the regret on his friend's face, but they got no choice but to keep moving. With bodies and wrecks everywhere, there's no clear path, and it's a mess no matter where they turn. He thinks to himself that if his discharge had been delayed by just 3 months, he might have been one of those dead soldiers. The whole situation is worse than they thought, with monsters still munching on the corpses. Suddenly, Young-so calls out to him, which snaps our boy out of his thoughts. Once he looks ahead, they see the road is blocked up ahead. Young-so points out that the barbed wire looks like it was set up by the military to block something, and they'll have to take another route. He mentions there should be another bridge they can cross. But that's when Kim spots something at the end of the blocked bridge. As we take a closer look, we notice a new type of monster we've never seen before. Now it finally makes sense what the military was trying to block. While Young-so is panicking and considering turning the car around, our boy sees this as an opportunity to level up his subspace. He then notices a narrow sidewalk on the road, perfectly blocked on both sides. He quickly tells Young-so not to turn the car around and asks if he can pass the vehicle through that sidewalk. Kim explains that he's come up with a good plan to get through this situation without having to turn back, and he's thrilled about pushing the truck through a literal pedestrian sidewalk. Young-so is shocked by such a suicidal choice, especially when an orc appears in front, scattering the mutant hounds. The monsters don't seem to be friendly with each other at all. Even though the orc has the advantage in size and strength, the mutated dogs are simply more numerous. The poor orc doesn't stand a chance against such a hungry pack, and their hollow mouths don't stop them from tearing flesh. Kim and Young-so can only watch the blood and flesh flying in every direction. Poor Young-so is really scared, and even though he knows Kim's abilities, he's doubting the sanity of going straight through. Just to be sure, he asks what Kim meant, and if he really plans to cross this bridge. Kim is confident more than his frightened friend realizes. While Young-so tries to gain courage, Kim asks him a strange question. Ever heard of a game where 3 races wage war against each other? It's called Stark, a space strategy game. But Young-so, being much older, has no idea about this game. Kim decides to explain. In the game, players could play on customizable maps and change settings however they wanted. One of Kim's favorite maps involved fending off swarms of monsters with limited units and using terrain to their advantage. And to Kim, this current situation feels just like that map. Of course, Young-so doesn't know why he's being told all this, but his understanding isn't necessary. All he has to do is follow what Kim tells him. First, Young-so has to turn the car around and back up to the barbed wire barrier. Naturally, tearing down the barbed wire makes a ton of noise, attracting the attention of the monster hounds that are busy feasting. Now, it's Kim's turn to get down to business. He activates his system and resorts to the last skill he wasn't even planning to use, but now's the perfect time. He unlocks the auto ship skill by spending 10 magic stones. He immediately asks Pax to use all his remaining magic stones to increase the shipping speed. Pax did so without delay, and now the shipping speed had increased to 100 kilometers per hour. Now that everything was ready, Kim could invite the mutant hounds that had been eating the orc to come at him. After a hearty lunch, it's playtime. The unsuspecting dogs rushed forward, but they didn't make it in time. The double-door refrigerator quickly demolished them completely. As you can see, this game was not fun for the hounds. It didn't end with the first refrigerator. More and more came after it. In just a few seconds, Kim received 12 magic stones, and he was very happy about it. The reinforced shipping range and delivery had been improved while he was still clearing the tunnel. Kim might be throwing axes instead of refrigerators now, and together with the recently improved precision delivery, it could be quite effective. But while using precision delivery last time, Kim found out that this skill doesn't track the target all the way. Instead, precision delivery only slightly corrects the direction according to the movement of the target. This could be a big problem against these hounds, which are not just fast, but incredibly quick. Even an axe, flying at 100 kilometers per hour, can be dodged by these hounds when attacked from afar. Moreover, these creatures are so fearless that they won't stop, even if one of their kind dies right next to them. Considering the current situation, where the delivery interval is 2.5 seconds, axes won't be enough to hold off their onslaught. But the refrigerator, thanks to its size, is perfectly suited to destroy several targets in a single shipment. Not only is the fridge wide, but it's also heavy enough to take down hounds with just a graze. On top of that, the automatic delivery he had just improved proved to be very convenient. Kim didn't even need to watch the battlefield. The system automatically destroyed any approaching threats. For now, our hero could just rest and relax. The hounds didn't give up, despite not even getting close to Kim. All they could do was howl with rage and keep trying. Let's be honest, though, against the flying refrigerators, they didn't stand a chance. As the battle continued, Young-so had the carelessness to look back. He nearly lost his jaw in surprise when he realized what he saw. He thought Kim could only throw axes, but here were refrigerators that were beyond his imagination. Okay, one flying refrigerator was something he could still picture, but a new one every 2 seconds was unbelievable. Plus, why would the logistics center have so many refrigerators in stock? Young-so began to wonder if the stock being retrieved was coming out as new products. Even if axes are indeed retrieved and reused by Kim's system, how it could work with refrigerators was unclear to him. Young-so just couldn't believe it and froze in place. He didn't even notice when Kim came back to him and asked if he wanted something to eat. Young-so finally realized what was going on and asked a question to make sure. He wondered if it was possible that Kim's supply was infinite. Kim was a bit surprised by the question. He thought Young-so had figured it out a long time ago, but he was wrong. All this time, Young-so had thought Kim was collecting axes after using them to recharge them, and couldn't even imagine that he actually had an infinite supply. In fact, Kim did indeed collect the axes after use with the system, but only so that they wouldn't lie on the road and accidentally injure someone. Hearing this didn't make Young-so feel any better. He still couldn't believe that items could be infinite. When he came to his senses a little, our hero asked again what he wanted to eat. Young-so had had a difficult day of emotional turmoil, so a Coke Zero and a donut were more than enough for him. While they ate quietly, the delivery system behind them was mercilessly scattering hounds. Young-so was a little ashamed of his stupidity and how he had underestimated Kim's abilities, but he was still grateful for the food, even if it was infinite. Our hero was only happy to share, and was also grateful to Young-so for his trust from the beginning. Now, if Young-so needed anything, he should just let Kim know. Kim had almost everything in stock, but Young-so wasn't in a hurry to overuse someone else's generosity. He had enough of what Kim had done for him, clearing the way of monsters and helping him get home faster. After crossing this bridge, it would only be about an hour's journey to his home. Kim was happy to hear that his friend would be able to see his family soon. Young-so was too, but he also had fears about what he might find there, just hoping that his family was safe. Kim understood him well, for he too was worried about his own parents and sisters. He wanted to give Young-so a gift and noticed his ragged clothes. He shouldn't return to his family like this. Besides, the hounds were still continuing their futile attempts, and they had time to solve the clothing problem. The only remaining question was what style Young-so would choose. He was already uncomfortable with Kim helping him, even with clothes, but he didn't refuse. After all, Young-so was sure that Kim had what he needed: aviator glasses and a cool jacket. Just what a top-class driver needed to drive around the apocalyptic landscape. Wow, is that you, Truck-kun? Just in time, the hounds were almost finished. Only a couple more to go. With his new look, Young-so gained an unprecedented confidence, and sure of the truck's durability, he decided to head out right away. His movements were fast and precise. Even Formula One drivers would envy him. Kim barely had time to grab on tightly before Young-so slammed the gas. The remaining hounds didn't even try to stop them as they drove straight down the narrow road. Young-so was lightning fast when it came to anything about driving. At this rate, he only needed 20 minutes to drive home. But Kim had to hold on tight. The truck flew down the broken roads like it was on a highway. Poor Kim shouted in vain for Young-so to drive slower, and it looked like he was about to throw up. Luckily, his suffering wasn't long. They finally arrived at Young-so's house. Or rather, what was once his home. Now it was a ruin. Young-so stands outside his house, staring at the broken-down buildings from the window. The destruction is brutal, and in his mind he's trying to convince himself that these buildings were old. That's why they fell apart. But deep down, Young-so's hand is trembling. He's standing in front of his own door, scared out of his mind, afraid of what's on the other side. He's thinking, what if my family isn't there? What if I open this door and find their bodies? His fear is suffocating. He keeps repeating to himself that they're safe, that he'll open the door and everything will be fine. But his hands won't move. He's too paralyzed to turn the handle. Kim, standing behind him, watches and knows exactly what's going through Young-so's mind. The man drove like a madman, clearing what should have been an hour's drive in just 20 minutes, all for the hope of reuniting with his family. It shows just how desperate he was to get here. But now, face to face with the possibility of finding something horrible, Young-so can't move. Kim understands. If it's a corpse he finds behind that door, Young-so might as well die too. Kim knows Young-so won't be able to open it, so he steps up, places a firm hand on Young-so's shoulder, and offers to open the door for him. Young-so freezes, a mix of frustration and fear painted across his face. Then, almost on the verge of crying, he begs Kim to do it. Kim, knowing that no one ever wants to confirm their worst nightmare, slowly steps forward. If Kim were in Young-so's shoes, he'd be terrified too. He'd want someone else to open the door for him. So turning back one last time, Kim tells Young-so that he's going to open it. Before Kim can even touch the handle, though, the door swings open from the inside. Both Kim and Young-so freeze in shock. Young-so's eyes widen as he sees his wife and daughter standing there. His wife calls his name in a soft, warm tone, and his daughter cries out, "Daddy!" Young-so's wife starts crying, and before you know it, Young-so's breaking down too. He runs to them, and the three of them hug, tightly as if they'll never let go. It's a raw, emotional moment. Kim, standing a few feet away, just watches, giving them their space. Through the tears, Young-so asks his wife how she knew to open the door. She explains that she heard voices from outside and saw him standing there through the peephole. That's why she opened it. His daughter, still crying, blurts out, "Dad, I hate you! Why did you make me wait so long? I was so scared!" After a while, Young-so's wife finally notices Kim standing in the background. She asks, "Who's this?" It's only then that Young-so remembers Kim's presence. But before he can explain, Kim's vision starts to blur, and suddenly, bam! He collapses to the ground. Young-so shouts, calling out to Kim, but Kim can't hear anything. His body is shutting down. He hasn't slept properly in 3 or 4 days, and the exhaustion finally caught up to him. The darkness overtakes him, and Kim slips into a dream. In the dream, he's hit by brute force, but it's not a punch, it's a pillow. And standing there, holding the pillow, is his elder sister. She swings it at him, knocking him to the ground, and Kim shouts at her, asking why she hit him so hard. "It hurts!" he complains. But his sister just looks at him, annoyed, and says, "What do you mean hard? That was a soft hit. You're such a crybaby." She's unbothered, brushing it off like it was nothing. Meanwhile, Kim is ready to run to their dad and tattle on her. He storms off, determined to complain to their father, but his sister couldn't care less. She stands tall, holding the pillow like a champion, declaring she's won the pillow fight championship of the month. Suddenly, the scene shifts. Kim's dad is sitting with him and his younger sister, trying to mediate a sibling argument. He calmly explains that family, as annoying as they can be sometimes, is precious. One day, Kim will realize just how lucky he is to have them, and how much love there is in those sibling squabbles. Kim's father reminds him that no matter how much they fight, the bond they share is something to cherish. After that, Kim's mom storms into the room, scolding Kim's dad like it's her job. She's frustrated, telling him she asked for help with dinner, but here he is, just chilling. The scene cuts to the whole family sitting around the dining table, eating delicious food, laughing and sharing stories. As they sit, Kim's mom calls out to his older sister, Soil. You can tell she's suspicious as she questions Soil about always being on her phone. With a raised brow, she asks if Soil's got a crush on someone. Soil, looking all nervous, brushes it off, explaining she's still in middle school, and it's just her friends texting her nonstop. That's how things roll these days. From the outside looking in, this family is lovely, pure peace and joy. Kim's dad, who can't help but jump into the convo, starts talking about how Soil is into boxing and tells her there's a sports club at Young Korean Middle School she should check out. With a smirk, Soil confesses that the only reason she picked that school was for the boxing club. Meanwhile, Kim's ears perk up at the mention of middle school. Fast forward a year, and we see Kim has joined the same middle school as Soil. He's hyped, ready to make new friends and have fun, but things take a hard left. Nothing goes as planned. Instead of making friends, Kim finds himself being bullied, day in and day out by the seniors. They beat him, mock him, and Kim, being a crybaby, doesn't fight back. He just takes the hits day after day. But one day, someone steps in. Soil, his savage older sister, rolls in like a storm. With a creepy, deadly look, she grabs one of the bullies by the hand and with one punch, breaks it. Kim is beyond happy to see his sister, his savior. But that joy doesn't last. Soil, annoyed by how weak her little brother is, announces that from that day forward, Kim's training begins. And so begins Kim's hellish days of being trained by his devilish sister. The training is brutal, but it works. Soon enough, no bully dares to mess with Kim again. For a while, life seems all right. Kim makes friends, has fun, and cruises through middle school. But as time passes, we see his younger sister land a job at a nursing school, leaving Kim and Soil both shocked, while Kim is chilling on his PS5, barely keeping up. Then comes the moment that flips his world upside down. Kim's dad walks in, telling Kim the time has come. Kim doesn't get it at first, but when it hits hard. It's time for his military enlistment. The family is worried, even though Kim tries to act tough. On the outside, he's all big man, but inside he's crying. He doesn't want to leave his family behind. And after that, well, we all know how it played out. Then slowly, Kim's eyes flicker open. He's confused, a bit scared. He's lying in a bed, unsure of where he is. He remembers being unconscious, standing outside Young-so's door, meeting his family. But everything after that, blank. He has no memory. His mind races. Has Young-so betrayed him? Instinct kicks in and Kim opens his portal, pulling out a heavy axe, gripping it tight. Then, out of nowhere, a warm, polite voice interrupts his thoughts. Kim turns, startled. He sees Young-so's wife and his daughter sitting at the table eating. They glance at him, confused as hell. Kim finally snapped back to reality, blinking and looking around, realizing he was in Young-so's house. He turned his head and noticed Young-so, completely knocked out, sleeping peacefully. Then it hit him. He had straight up passed out outside the door. Young-so's wife had said he collapsed and had been out cold ever since. Man, he must have been more exhausted than he thought. Kim glanced down at the heavy axe in his hand, and for a second, he couldn't even remember why he was holding it. What was he thinking? He quickly stashed it back into his portal, making sure no one saw it, especially Young-so's wife. She didn't need to know about that. He asked how long he'd been sleeping, and she mentioned it had only been a few hours. Then, without warning, the mood shifted. Young-so's wife, with that soft, warm smile, started thanking him, telling him how grateful she was for everything he did. Kim could feel the weight of her words. How he helped Young-so, saved his life, and brought him back home safely. The gratitude in her eyes, the way she bowed her head, it made him a little uncomfortable. Kim wasn't used to this. He felt a bit awkward, nervous even, and he just wanted to brush it off like it was no big deal. He thought about how Young-so had helped him, too. It wasn't like he did everything alone. But then, just as Kim was about to push it aside, Young-so woke up. Still groggy but determined, he jumped in to back up his wife, insisting that Kim had done more. Young-so made it sound like driving Kim here was nothing compared to how Kim had saved him over and over again. To Young-so, Kim was a straight-up lifesaver. Even if Young-so hadn't been there, he figured Kim would have made it here on his own. But then Young-so's wife switched gears, saying they all had to be hungry. And with that, the vibe shifted once again. Kim's stomach growled, and he realized he hadn't eaten in what felt like forever. She mentioned that Young-so had refused to eat without him, waiting until Kim was up. Kim couldn't help but smile. Young-so, with that goofy grin, was all about eating together. So, with a warm chuckle, they both decided it was time to dig in. And then, bam! The scene cut to the kimchi stew in front of Kim. The moment his eyes landed on it, his mouth started watering. The smell alone brought back memories of his mom. He could feel his heart tighten, but in a good way, a bittersweet kind of way. The food wasn't fancy. Young-so's wife even admitted she didn't have much to work with, but to Kim, it didn't matter. This was his favorite. Nothing felt more luxurious than kimchi stew, especially after everything he'd been through. The first bite? Heavenly. The moment that stew hit his tongue, it was like fireworks going off in his head. Every single cell in his body felt alive again. The flavor, the heat, it was almost too good to be true. And just like that, it took him back. Back to when he used to eat with his family. Back when things were simpler. But then, as the meal wrapped up, Kim felt a wave of sadness. For the first time in 3 months, he'd had a meal that reminded him of home, of family, and it made him ache. He missed them so much it hurt. Young-so, noticing Kim's quiet sadness, brought the conversation back to their journey. He mentioned that their next stop was Gangnam, and suddenly Kim paused. The realization hit him, and in that moment, he was shocked. Kim couldn't understand what Young-so was saying at first. The whole thing just felt off. Then Young-so explained it all. He'd already talked this over with his wife. Once she heard about Kim's situation, she insisted that since Kim had helped Young-so reach his family, Young-so should do the same for him. Kim was still feeling confused, though. Even if Young-so took him to Gangnam, how would Young-so get back safely on his own? They stepped outside to clear their heads, And that's when Young-soo broke down the full plan. He'd drive Kim to Gangnam in his truck. Then Kim would have to leave his electric bike with Young-soo. Once they got to Gangnam, Young-soo would use the bike to make his way back home. Hearing this, Kim finally started to calm down, but the whole thing still didn't sit right with him. Why was Young-soo going out of his way to help him? Sure, Young-soo was a god-level driver, and with the bike, he'd be able to dodge most monsters, but the guy didn't have any combat skills. If a big monster, like a viper, came after him, it would be game over, and it made no sense. Young-soo had a truck full of resources. His family was safe. Why risk it all just to help Kim? Something wasn't adding up. So Kim finally decided to ask the question that had been bugging him. Why was Young-soo putting his life on the line for him? Young-soo smiled warmly, like he knew Kim was going to ask that. Then he dropped the real reason. Why did Kim help him first? Kim didn't want anything in return, didn't ask for favors. He just helped. If Kim hadn't been there, Young-soo would have died in that tunnel. So now, Young-soo wanted to repay the favor because they were in the same boat. Kim might have an awakened ability, but that didn't mean life wasn't still tough for him. Young-soo knew what it felt like to be desperate, to hold on to hope that your family is out there somewhere, safe. That's why he risked the tunnel. And now, he wanted Kim to feel the same joy he did when he reunited with his family. But Young-soo, with that sly grin, reassured Kim that if things got too dangerous, he'd get out. His driving skills would get him out of any situation. He wasn't about to risk his life unnecessarily, so Kim didn't need to worry. That's when Kim got hit with a flashback. He remembered when he first left for the tunnel, spotting a car with the keys still inside. Young-soo could have left everyone behind, but he didn't. He stayed with the group, helping them out. That's when Kim realized Young-soo was lying. He wasn't going to abandon Kim. He just didn't want to admit how far he was willing to go to help. So, with a kind smile, Kim agreed, but he added a condition. If Young-soo was coming with him, he had to bring his family along. Kim explained that he'd upgraded his subspace, and now he had the ability to bring others inside. Young-soo's family would be safer in there than in the building. Without hesitating for even a second, Young-soo threw on his gangster sunglasses and grinned like a boss, ready to drive that truck with his god-tier skill. Meanwhile, Kim had already upgraded his subspace to level 2, using 16 of his 116 mana stones. Now he could fit up to 20 people inside. The system told him it would take 6 mana stones a day to maintain it now, but that didn't faze him. The system asked if Kim wanted to allow external presence in the portal, and he said yes. Moments later, Young-soo, his wife, and his daughter entered the subspace. The look on their faces said it all. They were speechless. The Logitech Center was massive, stocked with endless resources. Kim called out to Pax, introducing him to Young-soo's family, and Young-soo told them that if they needed anything, Pax would handle it. Everything was infinite. They could use whatever they wanted without hesitation. Kim's wife looked absolutely shocked. It was like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Meanwhile, Kim told them he had some business to take care of, so they should just enjoy themselves. The place was theirs for now. After that, Young-soo turned to his daughter and asked if she wanted to play princess with Daddy. They looked so happy together, and Kim couldn't help but smile as he watched them. Then, something else happened. Kim's new ability unlocked. A laboratory where he could combine, classify, and transform any registered item in his subspace. And just like that, the possibilities became endless. Kim sat there, his mind racing as he wondered if his abilities were truly what he thought they were. He remembered the first time his ability unlocked. It was called Subspace. Back then, he could store anything he wanted. If he stored an apple, that apple would be in his subspace for life. But then, by some crazy accident, he ended up storing the entire Logitech Center in there, which completely upgraded his ability. His subspace merged with the Logitech Center, evolving his powers even further. Now, no one could enter his subspace except for him. But that wasn't the wildest part. The Pax AI from the Logitech Center, yeah, that merged with his system too. Now, those cold mechanical AIs had developed human-like emotions, and just when he thought it couldn't get crazier, the mechanisms from the Logitech Center, like shipment, evolved. Now he could launch items at 100 kilometers per hour. Subspace alone was insane, but with the addition of Pax AI, it was a whole new level of madness. Kim hadn't expected his ability to upgrade this much, but after reaching level 2, the game had changed. Kim now had another wild option. He could put anything in his subspace one more time. That revelation shocked him. The idea that he could store anything, that he had a personal lab where he could combine and create new items, was mind-boggling. At this point, it was like playing Minecraft IRL. He couldn't help but wonder what would happen if his subspace hit level 3 or 4. What kind of crazy powers would unlock then? But thinking about it wasn't going to get him anywhere. He didn't have enough mana stones to level up just yet. So for now, he needed to focus on what new thing he would add to his subspace. Last time, it had been the Logitech Center, which turned out to be a blessing in disguise. But now, Kim, with a majestic aura, decided to command his system to store the entire Earth in his subspace. Yeah, you read that right. He was about to store the Earth. If that happened, every living being would float off into space. The system asked for confirmation, and Kim, with a bit of tension, confirmed. But after 2 minutes, nothing happened. Then the system sent a notification: failure. The Earth couldn't be stored because it was outside the storage range. Kim sighed, figuring something like that would happen, but he had to try. It was worth a shot. Suddenly, Youngso appeared, talking about the route to Gangnam. Kim listened, but quickly asked why Youngso wasn't playing with his daughter like he had said. Youngso smiled kindly and explained that his daughter had been scared in the building, never feeling safe. But now, in this new place, she felt secure, and that's why she'd finally fallen asleep. It was all thanks to Kim. Youngso was grateful, and Kim, always humble, reminded him that Youngso had helped him just as much. If it hadn't been for Youngso's driving skills, Kim wouldn't have made it this far. They were even in his mind. But Youngso, with a serious tone, said he'd do whatever he could to help Kim. The scene shifted, and there they were. Youngso, driving his truck in God mode, rocking his gangster glasses. Kim was tense, feeling like the air had gotten heavier. Something was off, and he could feel it. Youngso, smiling, casually said that driving was the only thing he was good at, and he was confident no one could drive faster than him. He told Kim to buckle up, because things were about to get wild. Kim knew exactly what was coming and started crying inside. And then it happened. Youngso hit the gas, and the truck blasted off like a rocket. In no time, they had covered a huge distance, but everywhere they looked, there was nothing but destruction. The land was torn apart, and buildings were in ruins. While Youngso kept his cool, smiling, Kim looked like a zombie. His face was pale, dried up from the stress. Youngso mentioned they'd be at their destination soon, but just as they were closing in, they saw the road was blocked. Military barricades, complete with spike strips, were laid out. Kim realized something wasn't right. These weren't normal barricades. As they looked closer, a military jeep approached, but the people inside didn't look like soldiers. Kim tensed up, serious now. Those men, they weren't military, they were coming for trouble. Kim knew if they tried to escape, they'd be gunned down. Youngso asked, tense, what they should do. Kim opened his portal and told Youngso to get in. He'd handle the rest. Without hesitation, Youngso slipped into the portal, and Kim prepared to face whatever came next. Kim stood by the truck, eyeing the 3 guys stepping up with guns in hand. They strutted up like they owned the place, barking orders. One of them, all muscle and no brains, had the nerve to tell Kim to get out of the truck. Kim, barely holding back a smirk, just stared them down with a deadly glare. Without a word, he stepped out. They popped open the back of the truck and were shocked to see it packed with food. Their eyes lit up, like they hit the jackpot. They turned to Kim, asking if all that food was his. Kim, calm as ever, just nodded. But the musclehead stepped up, flexing his authority, and said that this food wasn't Kim's anymore. It was theirs now. Kim knew these clowns weren't military, not even close. These jokers were just after his resources. Musclehead, trying to look tough, asked Kim where he got all this stuff from. Kim, deciding to play dumb, acted like a clueless delivery boy and said he worked at the Logitech Center. They weren't buying it and demanded to know where the center was. Kim explained in the most casual tone that even if he told them, they wouldn't make it there. The roads were blocked, and monsters were all over the place. He had barely made it himself, just trying to survive. Musclehead wasn't impressed. He shot Kim a deadly stare, asking how much more loot was left at the center. Kim, playing along, said the food in the truck was just a fraction of what was stored there. One of the other guys checked his watch, muttering that it was almost time. Kim was confused. What were they rushing for? Before he could figure it out, bam! Musclehead punched him straight in the gut. Kim hit the ground hard. Wind knocked out of him. Before he could even catch his breath, the ugly fatso behind them slapped a cloth over Kim's face, knocking him out cold. Next thing, Kim woke up in a dim room, tied to a chair. His vision was still blurry, but he saw Ugly Fatso sitting in front of him on some wannabe commander's throne. A body lay on the ground nearby, blood pooling around it. Clearly a dead soldier. Kim quickly put it together. These thugs had taken over the military base. Ugly Fatso started talking, explaining how they'd killed off the military and made themselves the new bosses around here. Turns out they'd been fighting Vibrants, flying monsters that came every day at 6 p.m. sharp. The military had tried to fight them off with guns, but nothing worked. So they recruited people like Ugly Fatso and his crew. But when the military couldn't keep up, Fatso and his gang just wiped them out. Now, Ugly Fatso was the self-proclaimed commander. He made it clear to Kim that he hadn't killed him yet only because he needed him. Kim's job? To go back to the Logitech Center with some of Fatso's guys and raid it for resources. If Kim succeeded, maybe, just maybe, Fatso would let him join their gang and protect him. Kim had heard enough. Annoyed, didn't even begin to cover it. He was beyond done with these clowns. He stood there, pissed, thinking about what to do next. Then it hit him. This military base would make the perfect addition to his subspace. Without a second thought, he ordered Pax to store the entire Joint Commander Communication Headquarters into his subspace. Fatso didn't even realize what was happening. He sat there, confused, as the entire military base around him disappeared. 1 minute it was there, the next it was gone. Poof! Fatso was left sitting on his chair, out in the middle of nowhere, completely clueless. By the time Ugly Fatso figured out what had happened, it was too late. Kim had already disappeared into his portal, leaving Fatso sitting there with nothing but his chair in the middle of the deserted wasteland. At least Kim was nice enough to leave him something to sit on. All around, Pighead and his goons are left totally dumbstruck. They're clutching their rifles, heads tilted to the sky, trying to wrap their brains around the fact that the entire building they were just in vanished. The Pighead himself just sits there in his seat, eyes darting left and right, fear and confusion plastered across his face. He's thinking, where the hell did the entire building go? Meanwhile, Kim spits on the ground only to see a hint of blood in it. That punch from Pighead must have done some internal damage. He feels himself start to sway, like he might faint any second. The military base had drained his mana like nothing he'd felt before. It was like his energy had been sucked dry, leaving him weak as hell. Kim thinks if he'd known it would hit him this hard, maybe he would have waited, played it safe, maybe ducked into his subspace first. But it was too late for maybe. He'd made his choice, and now he just had to deal with it. Right now, the only thing on his mind was getting into his subspace to recover. As Kim slips into the shadows, Pighead's crew suddenly freezes as the sky turns blood red. The air fills with a dark, eerie shadow, the Wyverns. Hundreds of them, wings stretched wide, flying right for them, growling and screeching, ready to rip into anyone in sight. Panic hits Pighead's companions like a slap to the face. They scatter in every direction, forgetting Kim entirely as they dash for their lives. Even the guy who had Kim locked up bolts, leaving Kim free to drop to the ground. Pighead, furious, starts shouting at his team. He tries to rally them, yelling that their rifles could still take out the smaller wyverns. He's determined to take down the big one himself, but his men, they don't listen. They're too busy running for their lives. Pighead's face contorts in rage. He's cursing, calling them traitors, but then, bam! The ground trembles. Something huge lands behind him, shaking the earth under his feet. He turns slowly, terror carving lines in his face. There, towering above him, is a wyvern, massive. This thing isn't like the others. It's a solid 20 feet tall, black scales glinting in the red sky, its yellow eyes fixed on him with a deadly stare. This wyvern is 20 times bigger than any he's seen, a true nightmare in the flesh. And while all hell is breaking loose, we see Kim slipping into his subspace, carrying an injured military soldier along with him. The system pings, asking Kim if he wants to allow the outsider in. With a weary nod, he approves, letting both of them into his subspace. Kim feels the weight of exhaustion dragging him down even more, and he knows he's seconds away from passing out. His mind is racing. He barely managed to sneak himself and the soldier inside. Next time, he's going to have to be careful with these after effects. Storing anything huge, especially in a critical moment, could be dangerous. The black-scaled wyvern looms behind Kim, its intense gaze locked directly onto him, like it's about to pounce. Kim feels that icy stare pierce right through him, and he can't help but wonder, why the hell is this thing eyeing me? Meanwhile, the pighead, oozing overconfidence, stands tall in front of the wyvern. He's muttering on about his new physical enhancement ability and how he can break boulders with a single punch. Without hesitation, he swings his fist at the wyvern, but to the massive creature, it's like being tickled by a mosquito. The wyvern doesn't even flinch. Then, out of nowhere, a deafening, bone-chilling crunch fills the air. Kim, who really doesn't want to see what's happening, slowly turns around only to have his eyes go wide with shock. In one brutal bite, the wyvern chomps down on Pighead, swallowing him whole. And just like that, the Pighead's done for, gone in a single gulp. At that moment, Young-soo rushes over to Kim, checking if he's all right. Kim reassures him, though he's clearly worn out. He's drained, his energy barely hanging on by a thread. But he managed to bring an injured military officer back with him, who's looking worse for wear. Kim and Young-soo gently lower the officer onto a bed, breathing a sigh of relief. Upon examining the officer, they notice he has no major injuries, just a few scratches here and there. But the man looks severely malnourished. Kim recalls Pighead ranting about how they'd taken over the military base, but were running low on food supplies. The officer must have suffered weeks without proper food. Young-soo then mentions something strange happening in Kim's subspace. A whole massive structure had appeared, and not just any structure, it looked like an entire city. Young-soo leads Kim to a spot where he can see for himself, and Kim's jaw drops. He thought he'd just stored the military base building, but he'd actually snatched the entire base city right into his subspace. Kim's mind races. He hadn't realized the extent of his power. He only gave the command to store the military base without specifying a single building, so the system interpreted it as the whole damn city. Young-soo is equally shocked, standing there, mouth open, trying to process this mind-bending reality. Kim lets him know he'll need to explore the military base thoroughly. Meanwhile, Young-soo agrees to keep an eye on the officer and alert Kim when he wakes up. Kim sets off to explore his new domain. Hopping into his Mercedes, he starts driving through the military base city, his mind buzzing with possibilities. Weapons, ammo, explosives, gas masks, military vehicles, even tanks. It's like he's found the ultimate jackpot for surviving the apocalypse. But there's a hitch. Unlike the Logitech Center, where Pax manages everything and can ship items directly to him, this is a sprawling military city. If Kim needs something here, he's got to find it himself. He realizes he'll need to map out the entire place. The guns are likely in the armory, the ammo and explosives in a magazine. Every single item will require a trek across the city. As he drives, he's struck by just how massive this place truly is. Kim realizes he's got a monumental task ahead of him, mapping out every inch of this massive base. As he drives, he can't help but feel like an absolute fool for not realizing sooner. If he'd known the base was this huge, he would have stored all the weapons, tanks, and ammo directly in his subspace from the start. Now he's scheming a new plan. Once he locates everything, he'll send Young-soo to retrieve the ammo and weapons from the base while he stays back, ready to attack from his portal. Then, a thought slams into him. Supplies aren't infinite here. Unlike his Logitech Center with endless stock, the military base resources could run out. No more unlimited bullets or grenades to fire off recklessly. He's still mulling over the logistics when Pax AI suddenly appears and, with a casual tone, tells Kim he's got it all wrong. This base isn't like a regular storage facility. It's programmed with the Logitech system format, thanks to Pax. The entire base is now treated as part of his subspace, just like the Logitech Center. Kim's jaw nearly hits the floor. Pax goes on explaining that since the military base has merged with the subspace, Kim can command it exactly as he does with the Logitech Center. In essence, he can summon any military gear, vehicles, ammo, anything he wants, right to his side. Kim stares in disbelief as Pax confirms that, once synchronized, he'll have unlimited access to the military supplies, just like in the Logitech Center. This changes everything. Kim can barely wrap his head around it. His mind races with possibilities, his face a mix of shock, wonder, and pure joy. He asks Pax for double confirmation. Are they talking about endless rifles, ammo, grenades, everything? Pax nods, and it's like Kim's whole world has flipped. This isn't just revolutionary, it's straight-up game-changing. Still buzzing with excitement, Kim needs details. He asks Pax how long the synchronization will take. Pax admits it's a massive task, with only 0.81% completed so far, so the exact timeline is anyone's guess. But then Pax suggests a workaround. If Kim prioritizes certain items, Pax can sync those first, making them immediately available. Without missing a beat, Kim lists his must-haves: rifles, ammo, grenades, vehicles, and fuel. These are the essentials, the lifeblood for survival in this apocalyptic mess. Kim smirks, knowing that once he has those at his fingertips, there's nothing out there he can't face. Pax tells Kim that the synchronization will be ready in 10 minutes flat. After that, unlimited access to all weapons, vehicles, and supplies, everything he needs to go full throttle. Kim, feeling a surge of confidence, asks Pax if there's a lock system, something that'll ensure no one can touch the military base without his direct say-so. Pax confirms with a simple yes. Satisfied, Kim instructs him to secure everything immediately. Kim mulls it over for a second. It's not that he doesn't trust Young-soo and his family. It's just this soldier he's not sure about. He stands before his portal, knowing he now holds the power of food, vehicles, and weapons in his hands. He just hopes that the situation outside isn't as chaotic as he suspects. But as we shift scenes, the reality is brutal. The Wyverns are on a rampage. Pighead and his lackeys are being torn apart one by one. Kim realizes the situation outside isn't going to calm down anytime soon. Back inside, Kim and Young-soo get ready for battle mode. Young-soo's in his old boss uniform, looking every bit the part, and Kim grips his M416 rifle, locking and loading. In front of them lies a massive box filled with endless ammo. Young-soo remarks, with a hint of nostalgia, that it's been years since he held a gun. He never thought he'd be back in action, firing off rounds like this again. Kim reassures him. He's duplicated thousands of rounds, packing each box with 10,000 bullets. Young-soo doesn't need to worry about any jams or breakages. There's plenty of firepower to go around. Then Kim gives Young-soo a little challenge, asks if he still knows how to shoot. With a smirk, Young-soo picks up his own M416 and says he's about to show Kim how much of a badass shooter he was back in his day. He takes aim, lets out a breath, and bang! Every bullet finds its target, dropping wyverns left and right. Headshot after headshot, he downs over 50 wyverns in record time. After half an hour, Young-soo's gun is glowing red-hot from all the firing, smoke thick in the air. When the haze finally clears, the floor is littered with wyvern bodies. Young-soo, adrenaline still pumping, says he hasn't enjoyed himself like this in years. He figures they've taken out all the wyverns and are ready to move on. But Kim's face is tense. He's got this nagging feeling. Kim warns him, saying that not all the wyverns are dead. Young-soo looks around confused. Every single wyvern in sight is down. But Kim tells him about the black-scaled wyvern, a massive, unique one he spotted earlier. Young-soo's still skeptical, but we zoom out to see what Kim was talking about. Hidden in the shadows, lurking behind Kim's portal, the black dragon waits, silent but fierce. It's as if it knows Kim and his team are hiding inside, and it's patient. The moment they step out, that beast is ready to devour them all. After that, we see Young-soo confused and peering outside. No matter how hard he looks, he can't spot anything. For a second, he wonders if Kim was just being paranoid. But then Kim proposes an idea. He says those massive dragons might be lying in wait, hidden somewhere, just ready to pounce the second they step outside. From what Kim observed, that huge wyvern seemed smart, way too smart for comfort. Young-soo agrees, noting that in this post-apocalyptic world, staying cautious isn't just smart, it's survival 101. Then Young-soo gets an idea. Could a remote-controlled car work as bait? Would that beast go after a tiny moving car? They decide to give it a shot. The scene shifts, and now both of them hold remote-controlled cars, each rigged with a humanoid doll on top. What a plan. With a deep breath and a count to 3, they send the cars forward. The dolls zoom out of the portal, making it look like humans just strolled into the danger zone. In seconds, a huge wyvern swoops in, piercing the doll's stomach with its monstrous claws. It rips the doll to shreds. Young-soo's jaw drops. He can't believe the wyvern was actually lurking back there. His eyes go wide with terror as he watches the beast slice the doll into pieces, its massive teeth glinting in the light, each one as big as Young-soo's body. The next moment, the wyvern turns, its glowing eyes fixed inside the portal. Without hesitation, it lunges forward, trying to push its way in. Kim's heart nearly stops. He shouts at Young-soo to start firing. Both of them unleash every round of ammo they've got on the massive beast. For 15 minutes straight, they pour bullets into it, the room filling with white smoke. They think, hope, They've taken it down, but as the smoke clears, they see those glowing eyes still locked onto them. The wyvern, undeterred, shoves its head closer, drooling as it tries to devour the portal itself. Young-soo and Kim stumble back, horrified. They can see every detail of the wyvern's mouth, its deadly teeth inches away. Young-soo is dumbstruck. How is this beast still standing after taking so much firepower? Kim recalls that Pighead mentioned a similar wyvern, one that shrugged off all the military's attacks, forcing them to hide. This must be the same wyvern, Kim realizes. But this isn't just brute strength. Something's shielding this beast from their attacks. It's like the wyvern's hide isn't just thick. It's got some kind of awakened ability protecting it. Kim doesn't have time to dwell on it, though. He grabs a couple of grenades, lobs them at the wyvern's mouth, and gives a wicked grin, muttering, "Let's see if that hide's tougher than a grenade." The grenades explode with a deafening bang, filling the portal with smoke once more. But Kim and Young-soo don't let up. They keep hurling grenade after grenade, each explosion followed by the wyvern's angry shrieks. An hour passes, their shoulders aching from the relentless barrage. Young-soo groans, saying he never imagined throwing grenades could be this exhausting. Kim's right shoulder feels like it's about to pop out of its socket. Yet the wyvern just sits there, calm as a cat waiting to pounce, its piercing eyes focused on the portal. They're trapped. How are they supposed to travel with this beast guarding the exit? Suddenly the wyvern slams its claws against the portal, but thanks to the portal's unique properties, it can't get in. Kim, though, is frustrated and confused. They've thrown everything they have, yet not a single scale is damaged. Finally, with a snort of what almost seems like boredom, the wyvern turns away and flies off. Young-soo, baffled, wonders why it left. Kim suspects it got tired of waiting for them to slip up. After hours of failed hunting, it probably decided to look for easier prey. It's a relief, at least for now. They wait an extra hour just to be sure. When the wyvern doesn't return, Kim and Young-soo share a glance. Exhausted, but determined, they pick themselves up, gather their supplies, and brace themselves. It's time to continue the journey. The scene shifts and we see Kim and Young-soo hitting the road again. Young-soo, still visibly shaken, can't help but mumble about the horror of that huge wyvern. Kim's on the same page, his mind racing with worry. Those dozens of grenade explosions barely left a scratch on that beast. If a wyvern that size shrugs off grenades, what the hell kind of weapon would it take to bring it down? Kim starts realizing that regular explosives just aren't cutting it. Grenades are designed for taking out smaller targets, humans, not dragon. Sure, he could pull out a rocket launcher, a missile, maybe even a bomb from his subspace, but that much firepower would probably level the city around them, innocent lives and all. He can't go down that path, not if he wants to keep his humanity intact. The idea of hurling missiles and bombs like a madman makes him feel like a monster himself, and that's something he won't let happen. He's frustrated as hell. What he needs is a weapon that's as powerful as a bomb, but doesn't destroy everything around it. The more he thinks about it, the more his head starts to ache. He considers that maybe if he had something heavy as hell dropped from an incredible height, it could do some serious damage to that wyvern. But the idea of using a military tank is out. The wyvern would dodge it in a heartbeat. What he needs is something small, heavy, and lethal. But that doesn't even exist right now. At this point, he's stuck. Grenades and guns are about all he's got. But just as he's resigned to it, he decides to check his magic stones, wondering how many he's got left. When he glances at his magic crystal, he's shocked. 314 magic stones? Where did they come from? He remembers killing 50, 100 orcs and goblins and barely scraping together 50 stones, but maybe wyverns yield more. With that many magic stones, Kim gets an idea. He'll upgrade his skills. He pumps 100 stones into his subspace upgrade, boosting his shipping range to a whopping 50 meters. Not only that, but he can now ship 4 items per second. This ability is turning insanely powerful. He still has 189 stones left, but there's one thing he hasn't even tried yet: his pocket dimension lab. It was something he'd unlocked with his last upgrade but never got around to exploring. Curiosity piqued, Kim decides to unlock it. He pours 50 magic stones into it, and just like that, his pocket dimension lab comes to life. According to the description, this is a place where he can combine or separate anything he wants. A spark of excitement flashes in his eyes. Maybe he can create something new, something that will give him the edge he so desperately needs. Kim turns to Young-soo, telling him he's got something important to check out, so Young-soo should go chill in the subspace for a bit. Young-soo pauses, and with a grin, he says they're almost at Gangnam. He points out there's no sign of monsters, so he'd rather just keep driving while Kim can go check his subspace. Kim's worried, though, and he asks if Young-soo's sure it's safe. Young-soo, ever the genius, suggests that if Kim's that concerned, Kim can just head inside the subspace, and Young-soo will keep driving the Mercedes forward. Young-soo's observed that when Kim's inside his portal, as long as he's driving, the portal stays with him. After hearing this, Kim's intrigued, and he ducks into his portal. Sure enough, as Young-soo drives, Kim notices he's moving right along with him. Impressed by the setup, Kim agrees to the plan, but still feels a little tense. He steps into his newly unlocked pocket dimension to explore. Inside, everything is white, vast, and empty. Kim wanders around, testing out his new space, and his system pipes up, explaining the deal. Here, Kim can do two things: combine and separate objects. He can merge multiple items regardless of their form, or break them down into basic components. Kim's mind races. This could be game-changing. Could he, for instance, combine a rifle with its magazine to create a continuous ammo feed so he wouldn't have to reload? Pax gives him the green light, confirming Kim's idea is totally doable. Next, Kim wonders if he could remove a grenade's safety pin while storing it, so the moment it's shipped out, it explodes. Pax confirms again. Curious to test it, Kim asks Pax to remove the pin and create a new item. It costs him 15 magic stones, and as soon as he sees the result, Kim is fascinated. But he knows this grenade alone won't cut it for the big wyvern. He needs something way stronger. An idea clicks, and Kim, with a smirk, begins building a secret weapon. Meanwhile, Young-soo's out on the road when he hits a dead end, a massive mountain of cars stacked up like some post-apocalyptic wall. Who the hell would make a car wall? Just then, Kim emerges from his subspace, asking how much longer to Gangnam. Young-soo explains there's no monster trouble, but someone's blocked the entire road with cars. He suggests they'll need a detour. Kim stops him. No need for a detour. He's got a new weapon that can clear the way. Young-soo's about to ask what weapon he's talking about when, bam! The cars start flying into the air. Massive metal plates, each 20 kilograms, come flying out like bullets, slamming into the cars at an incredible speed. Cars start scattering like toys. Young-soo stares, shocked. It's a stack of 20 kilograms plates glued together, flying at 150 kilometers per h, creating a 500 kilograms barrage on anything in its path. He watches in awe and shouts, "What on earth did you create?" The scene shifts, and we see some folks guarding the road from atop a building, trying to spot any monster lurking around. They're holding whatever they can for weapons, but honestly, it's all just household tools. One of the middle-aged men is scared and confused. He's wondering, how the hell did that wall of cars collapse so fast? The guy next to him, the depressed one, is equally baffled. He says that wall had withstood so many monster attacks, it shouldn't have crumbled like that. But then, the depressed guy notices something down the road. Smoke everywhere, and through that smoke, a jeep comes barreling forward. It picks up speed and stops right in front of their building. The men grab their weapons, if you can call a wooden stick a weapon, and they just stare at the scene. They're both shocked. Who are these people? Soldiers. They must be, considering they're rolling up in a military jeep. Slowly, the car's black-tinted window rolls down, and from inside, Kim flashes a kind smile and asks the folks up top, "Is Nurse Kim Jui here?" The scene shifts again, taking us into a flashback. Kim's sister number 2, the middle child, delivers a flying kick so hard that Kim almost faints. He spits out, stunned. Meanwhile, Juhi, the eldest child, aka sister number 1, is quietly studying and telling her siblings to keep it down because she's prepping for an exam. Kim and sister number 2 are stunned, mouths wide open. Sister number 2, looking very concerned, asks Juhi if she's feeling okay. Why is she suddenly so intense about studying? Is she sick? Juhi snaps back, asking if it's that shocking for her to study hard. But Kim, totally serious, turns to sister number 2. "Yeah, she definitely doesn't look well. We better call Mom. She's lost it." Juhi's anger erupts, and she starts shouting, asking if they'll ever let her study in peace. Kim explains that Juhi, who's 8 years older than him, only started taking school seriously when he was around 7. And since she'd never sat still in a chair for more than 30 minutes before, her sudden change had the whole family on edge. Kim and sister number 2 drag their mom over to Juhi, their eyes big with worry, pointing out that their big sis has totally lost her mind. Even Juhi's mom looks concerned. Juhi can't believe it. Her family doesn't think she's capable of doing anything with her life. Frustrated, Juhi reveals her secret. She proudly shows them her doctor's book and announces her dream. She's decided she's going to become a doctor. She declares, "Even if the world ends tomorrow, today I'll still treat the sick." Her face glows with pride, her eyes sparkle with determination. The whole family is stunned. They stare at her, completely speechless. Kim and sister number 2 turn to their mom, whispering that Juhi's condition is getting worse and maybe she needs a mental hospital visit ASAP. The house descends into a lovely family brawl, everyone going at it, laughing, yelling, the works. Days pass, and the family assumes Juhi's passion was just a teenage phase, that her goal to become a doctor would fade away. But no, her grades shoot up. She skyrockets through high school, and before anyone knew it, she gets accepted into the top nursing school she applied for. Her dad, mom, Kim, sister number 2, everyone is shocked. Juhi, who once couldn't sit still for 30 minutes, has achieved the unbelievable. Back to the present, we see Juhi standing there, face frozen in shock, staring at Kim, who's now come back to find her. It's all real. Her journey, her family, her dream, and now, this reunion. Suddenly, Juhi starts crying, tears streaming down her face, cheeks turning red. Kim is standing right in front of her. Kim's eyes fill with tears too, his face also flushed with emotion. He's so overwhelmed he can barely speak. Juhi, still sobbing, her voice choked, asks Kim, "How did you make it this far? Are you hurt? Are you hurt?" But Kim, just as emotional, can't get the words out either. Through his tears, he tries to explain that he's fine. Nothing happened to him. This heartfelt reunion catches Young-Soo's eye from behind, and he watches them with a warm, kind smile. He whispers to himself, "Thank God, Kim's sister is safe." After a moment, Kim and Juhi finally embrace each other, holding on tightly, both crying. They cling to each other, letting the weight of the world fall away, if only for a few moments. When Kim finally calms down, he wipes his tears, then turns to introduce Young-Soo. He explains that Young-Soo helped him the most to get here safely. Young-Soo bows his head respectfully, introducing himself, and Juhi, grateful beyond words, introduces herself as Kim's older sister. From the depths of her heart, she thanks Young-Soo for keeping her little brother safe in this apocalyptic nightmare. Then, Juhi suddenly reaches into her pocket, and with a small, mischievous smile, she tells Kim she has something for him. She figures Kim probably hasn't eaten much in this mess and could use something sweet. She pulls out a chocolate bar and hands it to him, but Kim stops her. He tells her, "I'm really full, sis. Actually, I've got enough chocolate to last me a lifetime." But then Kim's expression turns serious as he explains that he has a patient in critical condition. Juhi's face immediately shifts to concern, and she asks where the patient is, insisting they bring him to her immediately. But Kim explains that the patient isn't in the car. In fact, he's in Kim's subspace. Juhi's jaw drops, her eyes widening in shock. "Kim, you have an ability too?" Kim nods, explaining he unlocked an ability called Subspace. He can open a portal to a hidden space where only he and those he allows can enter. It'd probably freak people out if they saw it. He laughs a bit nervously, so he suggests they find a private spot. Juhi agrees, noticing all the people around, and says it's best they head inside the hospital. We'll have more privacy there. Slowly, Kim, Young-Soo, and Juhi enter the hospital, and the sight inside is nothing short of heartbreaking. Kim takes it all in. People clutching nothing but wooden sticks for protection, hollow-eyed and starving, their bodies sprawled across the floor like lifeless corpses. After that, they finally reach Juhi's private chamber. Young-Soo shuts the door behind them, leaving only Juhi, Young-Soo, and Kim in the room. Then, at long last, Kim opens the door to his subspace. As soon as he does, Juhi's jaw drops. She stands there, eyes wide, mouth open, totally shocked by the vast city-like area in front of her. She stares, asking, "What the hell is this? Are all these buildings part of your ability?" But Kim quickly reassures her that he'll explain later. For now, she needs to follow him. They make their way to the room where Kim had kept the injured military man. Juhi rushes to his side and begins checking his body. Kim, still anxious, asks, "What do you think, Juhi? Will he make it?" Juhi, dead serious, asks how long he's been like this. Kim explains that he doesn't know for sure, but it couldn't have been too long since he found him on the way here. He suspects the man was beaten and tortured. His condition wasn't good from the start. Then Juhi drops a bomb. With a somber look, she tells Kim this man might not survive for long. Hearing this, both Kim and Young-Soo freeze, fear in their eyes. They were holding on to hope that this man could be saved. Kim, desperate, asks, "Is it really that bad?" But then Juhi's tone changes. She smiles, explaining that normally his chances would be slim. But just then, Juhi's hands start glowing with a green aura, and she grins with confidence. "Isn't it cool?" she says, "because I've awakened as a healer?" She places her glowing hands on the soldier's chest, the green light spreading over his entire body. She warns them that her level is still low, so full recovery is tough, but he won't die. After 5 minutes, Juhi finishes the healing. The soldier's wounds close and his breathing steadies. Juhi explains that while it's not a full recovery, the basics are covered. He's severely malnourished and will need food and rest to regain his strength. Suddenly, Kim says, "Sis, even if the world is ending, you're still treating patients, just like you said you would." Juhi, caught off guard and a little embarrassed, laughs nervously. "Why bring that up now?" But Kim, undeterred, repeats her words from childhood. "Even if the world ends tomorrow, I'll still treat the sick today." Blushing, Juhi shouts, "I should have disciplined you like sister number 2 did when you were young." And just like that, they're bickering again. Finally, when the playful quarrel dies down, Juhi turns serious and asks, "Now explain everything. What's been going on?" Kim, slowly and with detail, explains the whole story, how he got trapped in the storehouse, how he sent messages to Juhi and sister number 2, and how the entire network system went down. He recounts unlocking his subspace ability, accidentally storing the Logitech Center, and merging with Pax AI. He explains meeting Young-soo and their journey here, but while Kim is telling the story, Juhi is scarfing down a meal like she hasn't eaten in days. Kim sighs, annoyed, and asks, "Are you even listening, Juhi?" Juhi, mouth full, nods and says, "Of course I'm listening." So Kim challenges her, "All right, what did I just say?" Juhi, clearly distracted, fumbles and summarizes with 2 words, missing most of the main details. Kim groans but lets it slide, laughing a little. This delicious meal, it turns out, was prepared by Young-soo's wife, who introduces herself to Juhi. Juhi smiles and warmly says, "Nice to meet you. I love you already." They all share a laugh, and Young-soo's wife says if Juhi's still hungry, there's plenty more in the fridge. Just ask. Then she tells Kim she's prepared a bed and set up the first-floor staff room with supplies, suggesting he rest comfortably. Kim tries to thank her, insisting she didn't need to go through so much trouble, but she smiles, replying that with all Kim has done for them, it's the least she could do. Juhi, still curious, turns to Kim and asks, "How did Young-soo and his wife get into your subspace anyway?" Kim, exasperated, groans, "I literally just told you this whole story, Juhi." But Juhi shrugs, and so, with a sigh, Kim begins the story again. After that, Kim starts explaining his future plans. He sums it up, saying he's going to bring his entire family into his subspace. The first objective is already complete. His older sister Juhi is safely inside. Next, he'll go to find sister number 2, who is in Area 0. Hearing this, Juhi's expression changes. With a serious tone, she apologizes to Kim, explaining that she can't come with him because she has to stay here. Kim's face falls, shocked. "Why do you have to stay in such a dangerous place all alone?" he asks, concerned. Juhi sighs, agreeing that Kim is right about the danger, but it's not just about that. There are other patients and other nurses can help with them, but Juhi stops mid-sentence as the scene cuts away. In another building, a shadowy figure peers through a window at Juhi and Kim's building. He notes that 2 people arrived in a military jeep and heard from his guards that a loud crash came from the car wall outside. The wall broke from a jeep? He wonders. Confused, he speculates they might be special forces, but an unknown voice from behind him interrupts, suggesting that one of them is Juhi's younger brother. Finally, the face of this man is revealed, ugly and intimidating. His companion, sounding hopeful, mentions that if one of them is Juhi's brother, they may not be hostile, just in need of food and shelter. With control over the food supplies, they could leverage Kim if necessary. But the ugly man's face turns serious, smirking as he says, "Do you really think those 2 are stronger than you?" Just then, a towering, 7-foot muscular figure steps forward from the shadows. His body is veiny and dead-eyed, like some kind of living corpse. The muscular man assures the boss it's unlikely anyone is stronger than him. The boss orders him to greet Juhi and her brother warmly, pretending to extend kindness while making sure to repair the broken car wall. The muscular man nods, explaining he doubled the height of the wall, making it impossible to break through again. The scene shifts back to Kim and Juhi, where Juhi begins telling Kim about the departmental head, Jin. She explains that Jin has an awakened ability, allowing him to control minds and poison people. Kim's face grows deadly serious as he listens. Juhi continues, saying Jin has somehow taken control of most of the awakened people in this area, and they are guarding the food and monostone storages. Due to this, people in Juhi's building are starving. She's been stealing monostones in secret, trying to strengthen her own ability to potentially cure the poisoned and mind-controlled people. She explains that she'll stay behind to help these people while Kim goes to rescue their mom and dad. But Kim firmly says no. Juhi, angry, begins to explain that the people here have no food or water. "They'll starve," she says, frustrated. But Kim, in an annoyed tone, interrupts, asking, "Did you even listen to my entire story? The second time?" Juhi sits there confused, while Kim, arms crossed and eyes closed, coolly points out, "The main weapon Jin has is control over food, right?" Juhi nods. With a smirking smile, Kim says, "Then solving this problem is a piece of cake for me." He tells Juhi to watch his awesome ability in action. Juhi cringes a bit, muttering that Kim's middle school phase seems to have returned, but before she can even finish her sentence, her jaw drops. Out of Kim's subspace, stacks of meat, vegetables, water, and other food supplies come tumbling down from above, filling the room from top to bottom. The episode ends with this scene, leaving Juhi and the others staring in shock. Well, at this point, our boy Kim just discovered the ultimate infinite food glitch. After that, the scene shifts, and we are shown the same pervy doctor who mixed his special juice into the hospital food, fed it to the people in the hospital, and is now controlling their minds. An assistant of Pervy Doctor comes running to him and informs him that an issue has occurred. Pervy Doctor smirks and confidently says that he knows about Juhi's brother arriving with some food in a small car. But Pervy Doctor dismisses the matter, saying how much food can two people possibly bring in a small military vehicle. To him, this is nothing. Pervy Doctor and his group already have enough food to fill an entire truck. He assures himself that Juhi and her brother cannot possibly spoil his plans. With an evil smile, Pervy Doctor adds that soon, Juhi and her brother's food will run out because all the hungry people in the hospital will attack them like mad beasts and snatch their food. He smugly predicts that as soon as their food is gone, all the hospital's desperate people will come begging for food from Pervy Doctor. He sneers, saying that Juhi and her brother were foolish to be so generous. They should have quietly sat in a corner and eaten their food slowly. Their generosity, he remarks, will now turn their life into hell. Yet, Pervy Doctor gleefully admits that Juhi and her brother, in their naivety, have made his work easier. Now, everything will unfold on its own without him lifting a finger. But before Pervy Doctor could finish his smug declaration, his assistant interrupts, stating that Juhi and her brother have a surprising amount of food. The assistant explains that the food they brought is almost double what Pervy Doctor's group has. Hearing this, Pervy Doctor's eyes go wide open in shock. He cannot believe what he just heard. Pervy Doctor wonders aloud how it is even possible for Juhi and her brother to have food equivalent to 2 trucks worth, especially since Juhi's brother came in a small military jeep. How much food can a jeep hold? A thought dawns on Pervy Doctor. Juhi's brother might be an ability user. He suspects that Juhi's brother has a non-combat ability that allows him to reduce the size of objects, perhaps something akin to Doraemon's small light. Pervy Doctor concludes that Juhi's brother must have reduced a massive amount of food to a portable size and brought it in his pocket. Realizing this possibility, Pervy Doctor gets tensed. His smugness fades into worry, and his demeanor turns serious. Trying to regain control, Pervy Doctor goes to a corner, turns on his mobile phone, and starts watching a video. The video is of Johnny Bro, where a doctor checks a woman's body and performs a miraculous fix. After watching this bizarre video, Pervy Doctor regains his twisted confidence. He takes out his special juice, carefully places it in a small box, and hands it to his assistant. Pervy Doctor orders his assistant to mix this juice into Juhi's brother's food and feed it to both Juhi and her brother. Once consumed, Pervy Doctor plans to bring them under his control, but he gives a final order. If Juhi and her brother refuse to eat, kill them. The scene shifts, and we now see Kim walking through the hospital. He is moving from person to person, distributing food, but there's something peculiar about him. Kim's eyes dart from face to face with a determined focus. It's as though he's searching for someone. Kim internally reveals to us that Juhi has already told him about a particular individual he needs to find. Juhi assured him that he would recognize this person immediately upon seeing him. A flashback starts, taking us back 10 minutes earlier. Juhi is sitting with Kim, explaining the situation. She tells him that Pervy Doctor's one and only advantage is food. Pervy Doctor controls the hospital because he controls all the food supplies there. In that food, Pervy Doctor mixes his special juice to manipulate people's minds. All the hungry individuals in the hospital are left with no choice but to eat the food, despite knowing it is tainted with Pervy Doctor's drug. Juhi further explains that the drug causes temporary mind control. People lose their willpower for a short time, but eventually regain their senses. Her plan is simple, yet ambitious. Feed the hospital with unlimited food, so they no longer rely on Pervy Doctor. Once they stop consuming his drug-laden food, Juhi plans to neutralize the effects of Pervy Doctor's control. However, Kim questions Juhi's strategy. He asks if feeding everyone would truly make them peaceful. Could some of them use their awakened abilities to turn on him? Juhi dismisses Kim's concerns, explaining that most hospital residents have non-threatening abilities. Juhi elaborates, listing absurd abilities. Some people can open cans easily, others can warm their hands to press fabric, and a few can wash clothes like a washing machine or brush their teeth without tool. Kim is stunned at the sheer uselessness of these abilities. He cannot believe these people exist. But Juhi warns Kim about one exception. There's a highly dangerous person Kim needs to watch out for. Juhi compares this individual to the Hulk, describing him as a powerhouse of strength. His name is Hyun-gu. Juhi narrates Hyun-gu's story. After the apocalypse began, Hyun-gu traveled to this hospital, worried about his ailing mother. While trying to secure food from Pervy Doctor for his mother, Hyun-gu fell under his control. Since then, Hyun-gu has been an enforcer for Pervy Doctor, making him a significant threat. The flashback ends. The scene returns to Kim walking through the hospital. He approaches a dimly lit room, his heart pounding. Suddenly, Kim hears heavy footsteps echoing through the hallway. Loud and thunderous, the sound grows closer and closer. Kim freezes, knowing that something or someone powerful is about to appear. Kim looks to his left and notices a huge figure, almost double Kim's size, approaching him. The man's bicep is bigger than Kim's leg. At this moment, a flashback of Juhi's words echoes in Kim's mind. Juhi had mentioned that she didn't know much about Hyun-gu's ability, but assured Kim that Hyun-gu's massive size made him unmistakable. She also explained how Hyun-gu had single-handedly built a huge car barrier by crushing hundreds of cars with his bare hands. Back in the present, Hyun-gu slowly approaches Kim. His intense presence fills the air as he locks eyes with Kim and says, in a deep, commanding voice, that he recognizes Kim as Juhi's younger brother. Hyun-gu declares that he wants to talk to Kim. On the other hand, Kim, though a bit nervous, maintains his composure and signals Hyun-gu to speak. The two stand in silence for a moment, locked in a tense stare. Suddenly, the scene shifts, and we see that Hyun-gu's eyes are glowing bright red. Without a word, Hyun-gu drags Kim out of the car barrier to an isolated area. Once there, Hyun-gu turns to Kim and coldly informs him that Kim has only two choices. Hyun-gu reveals a small box in his massive hand, containing Pervy Doctor's special juice. He explains that Kim's first choice is to drink the special juice right here, right now. The second choice? Refusal will result in immediate death. Kim, hearing this, looks annoyed and frustrated. With a smirk, Kim sarcastically remarks that Hyun-gu went through all the trouble of dragging him out here just to say this. Kim mockingly questions whether Hyun-gu brought him to this deserted place because he thought Kim might run away. Kim then boldly declares with a confident smile that he is choosing a third option. He promises to defeat Hyun-gu right there and trap him. Hyun-gu pauses, his face twisting in confusion for a split second. But in the next moment, his expression turns into pure rage. In a matter of seconds, Hyun-gu raises his Hulk-like hands and prepares to crush Kim's head. But just as Hyun-gu's massive hands are about to grab Kim, Kim disappears. Suddenly, a barrier appears between Kim and Hyun-gu. From behind the barrier, Pax hovers with a small red bowling ball in his hand. Hyun-gu, clearly baffled, struggles to understand where Kim has gone and how the barrier materialized in front of him. At that moment, Pax launches the red bowling ball with incredible force. It speeds through the air and hits Hyun-gu square in the chest. With a loud bang, Hyun-gu stumbles back a few steps. From behind the portal, Kim peeks his head out and sarcastically asks Hyun-gu if 90 kilometers per hour was too fast for him. Before Hyun-gu can respond, Kim launches another bowling ball directly at Hyun-gu's feet at the same speed. The impact sends Hyun-gu slightly off balance, causing him to stumble to the ground. Despite being hit twice, Hyun-gu appears unharmed. He looks irritated rather than hurt. With a low growl, Hyun-gu demands to know what kind of bullshit ability Kim is using. Before Hyun-gu can regain his balance, a stack of 20 kilograms iron plates falls from above and hits him hard. Hyun-gu, now visibly confused, struggles to understand what is happening. Kim, standing confidently behind his portal, tells Hyun-gu that he won't be able to move for a while because of what's coming next. With a mocking tone, Kim apologizes in advance for the pain. Kim adds with a smirk that the 200 kilograms iron plates he's about to drop might break Hyun-gu's bones. He mockingly advises Hyun-gu to stand still like a good boy. In a dramatic sequence, a 200 kilograms iron plate falls directly in front of Hyun-gu. Within seconds, more iron plates stack on top, reaching 400 kilograms. But Hyun-gu, unstoppable, lets out a loud growl and with an explosive burst of strength, lifts the entire stack of almost 1,000 kilograms of iron plates. Kim, visibly surprised, watches as Hyun-gu effortlessly lifts the plates into the air. But Kim quickly regains his composure and opens a portal above Hyun-gu's head. All the iron plates Hyun-gu is holding suddenly disappear into the portal. The next moment, a stack of 10,000 kilograms. Iron plates falls from another portal and surrounds Hyun-gu. The plates form a perfect circle, trapping Hyun-gu in a tower-like structure. It looks like a metal castle built by stacking coins as children. Kim, standing confidently, thanks Hyun-gu for standing still. He reveals that the first iron plate was just a distraction. Within seconds, the 10,000 kilograms of iron plates forms an impenetrable prison around Hyun-gu, leaving him trapped and powerless. After that, Kim slowly walks away from Hyun-gu, his thoughts racing. Kim thinks to himself that Hyun-gu's body is incredibly sturdy and tough. If Hyun-gu had been a normal human, he would have been crushed and dead by now. As Kim approaches Juhi, she looks tense and worried. She immediately asks Kim about the loud banging noises she heard outside. Juhi's face reflects her anxiety as she questions if Kim encountered Hyun-gu. Kim replies calmly, explaining that he did see Hyun-gu and that Hyun-gu had taken him to a secluded corner. Hearing this, Juhi's worry deepens, and she begins peppering Kim with questions. But Kim simply points behind her and says, "Look behind you." Juhi turns, and her eyes widen in shock. Standing tall in the distance is a huge castle made of iron plates. Juhi's confusion spills out as she bombards Kim with questions. "What is all this? What happened?" Kim, brushing off the details, gives her a short explanation. He tells her that he has trapped Hyun-gu inside that iron structure. At least for now, they don't need to be afraid of Hyun-gu. Hearing this, Juhi breathes a sigh of relief. They then start discussing how they've distributed food and water to everyone in the hospital. Now, all they have to do is wait for Young-soo to arrive so they can move forward with their plan. But just as they're talking, a figure approaches from behind. Kim and Juhi turn sharply to their right and see Young-soo slowly stumbling towards them. His expression is worried and he's holding his head. His voice is heavy as he complains about the intense pain in his head and body. Juhi's eyes narrow in recognition, and she immediately identifies the symptom. She declares that Young-soo is suffering from mind control and drug poisoning. She suspects that the pervy doctor's special juice has been injected into Young-soo's system. Without wasting a moment, Kim and Juhi run to Young-soo. Kim asks him if he ate anything suspicious, but Young-soo shakes his head and explains that he hasn't eaten or drunk anything himself. He only distributed food to the hospital patients. That's when Juhi notices a small wound on Young-soo's hand with blood seeping out. Her mind quickly pieces the clues together. Someone must have injected the drug into Young-soo's body with a needle while pretending to thank him. Juhi suspects that this was part of the pervy doctor's manipulative scheme. Kim immediately cuts in, saying that this isn't the time to discuss how it happened. They need to stabilize Young-soo immediately. If the poison's effects fully take hold, Young-soo will become another mindless servant of the pervy doctor. Kim, visibly worried, decides to take Young-soo into his portal. He hopes that within the subspace, he'll be able to figure out a solution before the poison fully consumes Young-soo. But just as Young-soo steps into the portal, a system notification pops up. The system informs Kim that an unidentified energy attempted to enter the subspace but was expelled. Almost instantly, Young-soo's complaints of pain vanish. His headache disappears, his body feels normal again, and the signs of mind control fade away. Kim stands there, awestruck, as he realizes what has happened. The subspace has a built-in mechanism that nullifies all external drugs and poison. This realization gives Kim a dangerously clever idea. Kim quickly opens the portal again and teleports Young-soo inside. The system once again neutralizes the effects of the poison. Young-soo looks confused but relieved as he regains control of his body. He doesn't understand how the mind control disappeared so quickly. On the other hand, Kim, Joo-hee, and Young-soo exchange knowing smiles. Kim explains to them that he never expected his subspace to have such an incredible defensive ability. It nullifies all external mental attacks. The scene shifts, and we see Hyun-gu reuniting with his mother. It's an emotional moment as he hugs her tightly, tears streaming down his face. He tells her to eat well and rest. Later, a fully recovered Hyun-gu approaches Kim and apologizes profusely. He explains that while under the drug's influence, he could see and hear everything but couldn't control his body. This realization fills him with shame and embarrassment. Hyun-gu then vows revenge. With a determined expression, he declares that he will personally teach that bastard, pervy doctor a lesson. He stomps down the hospital hallway, his heavy footsteps echoing like thunder. Before leaving, Hyun-gu thanks Kim with sincerity, promising that if Kim ever needs his help, he'll come at a moment's notice. Meanwhile, Joo-hee turns to Kim and asks if he thinks Hyun-gu will be okay going to face the pervy doctor alone. Kim reassures her, saying that Hyun-gu is increasingly strong. No ordinary monster, let alone the pervy doctor, can harm him. The scene shifts again, and we see the pervy doctor receiving a system notification. The notification informs him that the connection with his minion, Hyun-gu, has been severed. Slowly, the pervy doctor begins to hear Hyun-gu's heavy footsteps approaching. The pervy doctor smirks confidently and turns around, convinced that Hyun-gu has come under his mind control. He casually greets Hyun-gu, but his confidence quickly shatters when he sees the rage in Hyun-gu's eyes. Before the pervy doctor can say much, Hyun-gu's fist connects with his face. With a single punch, Hyun-gu smashes the pervy doctor's head. The doctor collapses to the ground, lifeless. Wow! I can't believe the confidence of that pervy doctor to say spare me. After that, the scene shifts, showing Kim, Young-soo, and Joo-hee standing together, deep in thought about how to free all the people in the hospital from the mind control of pervy doctor. They know waiting for the effects to wear off would take too much time. Kim considers using his subspace ability to nullify the mind control instantly, but he hesitates. Kim doesn't want to reveal his subspace ability to everyone. Meanwhile, an old patient stretches his hands and stands in place, looking astonished. He repeatedly mutters about how he can now move his body freely. Slowly, others in the hospital begin to regain control over their minds. People gather with their loved ones, sharing tearful reunions. An elderly couple embraces and cries, relieved to finally reclaim their freedom from mind control. Kim observes the scene, his face full of surprise. He wonders how the hospital patients are freeing themselves from pervy doctor's grip. Before Kim can figure it out, a heavy, threatening voice interrupts, thanking Kim. Turning around, Kim sees Hyun-gu approaching with slow, deliberate steps, his body covered in blood. Hyun-gu's casual smirk, paired with his bloodied appearance, radiates a menacing aura. Kim feels nervous for a moment, wondering if Hyun-gu has lost control again and might attack him. But then Hyun-gu lowers his head in gratitude and thanks Kim once more. Hyun-gu acknowledges that if not for Kim, he would never have escaped mind control, taken revenge, or seen his mother again. Kim quickly understands what has happened. Hyun-gu must have killed Pervy Doctor. With Pervy Doctor gone, his mind control over the hospital patients has dissipated. Despite knowing this, Kim remains uneasy. A man as powerful as Hyun-gu, capable of killing normal humans with a single punch, now stands before him. Kim cautiously asks Hyun-gu if he's feeling all right and even apologizes. Kim reminds Hyun-gu that he had hit him several times with heavy bowling balls during their earlier confrontation. Hyun-gu waves it off, saying it was no big deal. His bones are still intact, just a few bruises. Hearing this, Kim feels both relieved and awed. He reflects on how even a huge orc could be killed by a bowling ball traveling at 50 kilometers per hour. But Hyun-gu endured 90 kilometers per hour strikes with only light bruising. It was an incredible feat. Hyun-gu's tone grows serious as he expresses something personal. He admits that he likes Kim and wishes Kim would stay at the hospital. However, Kim explains his mission to reunite his family and move them to a safe place. Kim's priority is his family, and he will leave the hospital soon. Hyun-gu nods in understanding, comparing Kim's goal to his own desire to reunite with his mother. Still, Hyun-gu bows his head, apologizing for his selfish request, but wishing Kim a safe reunion with his family. Kim thanks Hyun-gu for his well wishes. Before parting ways, Kim tells Hyun-gu they're heading to Iljiro City to find his sister. Kim asks if Hyun-gu knows anything about the city. Hyun-gu's expression turns grim as he warns Kim that reaching Iljiro might be impossible. The scene shifts, showing Kim giving supplies like survival tools, food, clothes, and medicines to Hyun-gu. They share a warm handshake, vowing to take care of themselves until they meet again. Kim climbs into his military jeep and drives off while Hyun-gu watches from a distance in his black truck. During the drive, Hyun-gu's earlier warning about Iljiro lingers in Kim's mind. Kim reflects on Hyun-gu's description of the strange occurrences in the city. A flashback reveals Hyun-gu explaining why he left Iljiro with his mother. He describes bizarre and terrifying events happening there. A massive wall had begun rising from the ground near Namsan Bridge. Hyun-gu struggled to describe it, but said it resembled a child's tooth emerging from the gum. The wall was thick and growing rapidly, eventually towering as high as a building. Its unnatural growth unnerved Hyun-gu, forcing him to flee with his mother. Kim thinks about the massive wall around Iljiro City, realizing that if it's as big as a building, there's no way they can pass it with their jeep. His mind races with ideas. Could he use his ability to break the wall? But as Kim ponders, Hyun-gu drops another surprising piece of information. Hyun-gu mentions that Iljiro City isn't just any place, it's infested with skeleton monsters. Hearing the word skeletons, Kim's eyes widen in surprise. But Hyun-gu continues, clarifying that undead might be a more fitting term. These skeletons are unlike any regular monsters. They come back to life even after being killed. Kim feels a chill as he processes this. Monsters that can't die in a massive wall? Iljiro City is shaping up to be a troublesome place. The narrative shifts back to the present. Kim reflects on his youngest sister being in Iljiro City. But oddly, Kim isn't worried about her safety. Instead, he feels sorry for the monsters. Kim knows his sister's personality. She's so strong and aggressive that even the monsters must be running for their lives. With the massive wall trapping the monsters inside Iljiro City, Kim can't help but feel pity for them. Suddenly, a system notification grabs Kim's attention, informing him that Juhi is calling him from inside the portal. Curious, Kim responds and asks what's wrong. Juhi explains that there's a problem inside the portal. She's visibly annoyed as she complains about a soldier Kim saved earlier, saying his attitude is annoying. The scene shifts, revealing the soldier Kim rescued. He has finally woken up. The soldier bows his head deeply, thanking Kim for saving him. Introducing himself, he says his name is Han Ho, and he's from the 50th Intelligence Communication Battalion. Kim, Juhi, and Young-soo also introduce themselves in return. After the introductions, Kim checks on Han Ho's health. Han Ho reassures him, saying that thanks to the treatment, he's feeling fine. However, his face betrays suspicion as he looks around. Han Ho asks where exactly he is, noting that he can see the military building outside but nothing beyond it, only the barrier. Kim calmly explains that they are in the lounge of the PAX Logitech Center. This is part of Kim's ability, a separate dimension where no one can enter without his permission. He further explains that they are currently in Gangnam, heading toward the Hannam Bridge. Han Ho's face grows more confused as he tries to process this information. Juhi steps in, simplifying things for him. She explains that they're in Kim's subspace dimension, which exists inside Gangnam but remains invisible to outsiders. Only those with Kim's permission can enter. Even after this explanation, Han Ho looks overwhelmed. He then makes a polite request to Kim. He wants to be dropped off in Gangnam to complete an important mission. Han Ho assures Kim that it's not because he doesn't trust him. In fact, Han Ho says he trusts Kim completely, but there's something urgent he needs to do. Kim grows tense at Han Ho's request. He tells Han Ho that it's dangerous outside. Leaving the subspace could put Han Ho's life in serious jeopardy, but Han Ho insists. He admits he can't share too many details, but reveals that his mission is to meet the Joint Chief of Staff. He has critical information to deliver. After hearing this, Kim pauses, thinking deeply. Finally, Kim lets out a sigh, understanding the gravity of the situation. If Han Ho's mission is truly that important, nothing can be done. After this, Kim calls out to Pax, ordering him to bring banana milk and a sandwich. Within moments, Pax appears with the items, handing them to Kim. With a serious face, Kim gives the banana milk and sandwich to Han Ho and firmly tells him that Kim will not let him go so easily. He must eat the food and then share all the information he has for the Joint Chief of Staff. Only then will Kim allow Han Ho to leave. Although Han Ho is visibly hungry, he resists eating. It's clear he doesn't want to divulge the information to Kim. Seeing this hesitation, Kim remarks sarcastically that it seems Han Ho doesn't like the taste of bread and banana milk. Without missing a beat, Kim orders Pax to bring pizza, burgers, and all the delicious food available. Soon, the table is laden with a feast. As Han Ho starts eating, his defenses crumble, and the truth spills out. He begins recounting the secret information he was trying to withhold. Han Ho explains that one day, creatures from another world began appearing all over the globe. Insects, animals, plants, and even geographical features like mountains emerged, wreaking havoc. These otherworldly beings attacked indiscriminately, sparing no one, neither humans nor each other. To combat this crisis, the government started recruiting awakeners, individuals with special abilities who could fight against these monsters. A new Awakener unit was formed, which handled the monsters with efficiency. Han Ho's mission was to gather awakened individuals and form a special force. Han Ho did exactly that, creating a group of awakened people. However, everything fell apart when a huge black vibranium appeared. Against this monstrous presence, neither tanks nor grenades were effective. Han Ho reached out to the surrounding military units for reinforcements, but strangely, there was no response despite successful communication. Left with no other choice, Han Ho and his remaining military unit retreated to the nearest city, recruiting additional awakened individuals, including an ugly fatso. After enduring a grueling journey, Han Ho's injured unit and the Fatso's group arrived at a city housing military buildings. However, upon arrival, they discovered the military units were dead and the area was deserted. In the abandoned military office, Han Ho found a document containing the word "cope." Hearing this, Kim, Juhi, and Young-soo are immediately alert. In military terms, cope means traitor. Han Ho tried to contact the Joint Chief of Staff, but their group was ambushed by the Black Dragon again. To make matters worse, the ugly Fatso and his awakened group turned on Han Ho's soldiers, killing them one by one and stealing their weapon. Han Ho fainted during the chaos, and when he regained consciousness, he found himself in Kim's care. Kim pieces the story together and realizes that someone high up in the government must be blocking communication and siding with traitors. Han Ho emphasizes the urgency of informing the Joint Chief about this betrayal. Kim agrees, saying it's critical to expose the traitor in the higher ranks. Since their group is already heading toward Yuljiro, Kim promises to drop Han Ho off at the military base of the Joint Chief on the way. Grateful, Han Ho tries to decline further help, but Kim insists that Han Ho sit, eat, and rest. Kim then gets up, opens a portal, and calls Yang-soo. Commanding him to start the car, Kim orders a direct route to Yuljiro. Kim assures Han Ho that he can monitor their journey through the portal and dismount whenever he wants. Meanwhile, Han Ho contemplates the Black Dragon that destroyed his unit. He wonders how Kim, who doesn't seem physically imposing, managed to defeat such a dangerous beast. But before Han Ho can delve further into his thoughts, a huge, humongous orc appears on the portal's edge. The orc opens its mouth, revealing a disgusting larva, and glares menacingly at Kim, Yang-soo, and Han Ho as if preparing to devour them all. The orc lets out an earth-shattering scream, sending a chill through everyone. Han Ho, startled, screams loudly that there's a monster ahead. But before Han Ho can finish his sentence, Kim launches a 100 kilograms iron stack straight at the orc like a rocket launcher. With a thunderous bang, the orc is sent flying far away, reminiscent of Team Rocket blasting off again. On the other hand, Mr. Han's mouth drops open as he watches in disbelief. The orc, which had decimated almost the entire military unit, along with all the guns and grenades, is casually dismissed like an insect. While eating, Mr. Han accidentally drops a chicken leg piece onto the table, his shock unending. In front of his wide eyes, a portal opens from above, and out of it falls a military jeep. Mr. Han tries to process what he's witnessing, struggling to comprehend where this jeep came from and how Kim defeated the orc so effortlessly. Kim turns to Mr. Han, telling him to eat and rest comfortably, reassuring him that they'll reach Yuljiro very soon. Kim leaves the portal open so that Mr. Han can monitor the situation outside and, if he chooses, step out whenever he wants. But Mr. Han remains frozen, his mouth still open. He struggles to understand the abilities he's just seen, launching iron pillars into monsters and summoning military vehicles out of nowhere. He wonders, what kind of F***ed up ability is this? Did I really see that? The scene shifts, and 5 minutes pass. Suddenly, another orc appears, moving towards the jeep. Without hesitation, Kim launches a 100 kilograms iron pillar, striking the orc and sending it flying far away. Slowly, the orc backs away due to the force of the impact. But from behind, 6 more orcs come charging. Kim fires the same 100 kilograms iron pillar, taking them all out in one hit. Mr. Han, sitting in the backseat of the jeep, watches in amazement. His initial surprise morphs into sheer disbelief as the orcs drop dead so easily. His jaw drops even further as he gazes out the window to see a portal opening behind the jeep, sucking in all the magic crystals from the fallen monsters. Mr. Han realizes he wasn't seeing things earlier. This is real. As Young-soo drives, multiple portals appear behind the jeep, launching iron pillars at high speed in all directions. Monsters coming from the front, back, left, and right are obliterated. 4 iron pillars are launched every second, each changing direction mid-flight to target their enemies. Kim not only retrieves the pillars after firing them, but also extracts mana stones from the monsters they kill. Mr. Han, watching this chaotic scene, thinks to himself that this is an overpowered, awesome skill. Suddenly, Young-soo announces that they've reached Banpo Bridge, but the bridge ahead is completely destroyed. Kim turns around, looking a little embarrassed, and tells Mr. Han that he promised they'd reach Yuljiro in an hour, but now it seems like it'll take a little longer because of the broken bridge. Mr. Han, startled, reassures Kim that they've already come a long way in such a short time, and he's grateful for Kim's help. Mr. Han decides to rest in Kim's subspace. Inside the subspace, Mr. Han reflects that it took them only an hour to travel from Gangnam to Banpo Bridge, even with broken roads and monster attacks. He realizes that this miraculously short time is thanks to Young-soo's godlike driving skills and Kim's overwhelming abilities. Together, they've made what would have been an impossible journey seem like a normal day. Meanwhile, Young-soo is having the time of his life, enjoying the dangerous, messy roads. But Kim is clearly not enjoying himself at all. The scene zooms out, showing Young-soo's insane driving skills as he takes sharp cuts and maneuvers through impossible paths. Mr. Han, sitting in the back seat, feels nauseous from the wild ride. Overwhelmed by dizziness, he retreats into Kim's subspace, thinking about how talented Kim and Young-soo are. Finally, they arrive near Yuljiro City. The city looms just beyond a massive stone fortress. Kim realizes that they can't drive inside using their jeep. From a distance, Kim assesses the fortress, wondering if he'll be able to break through it with his ability. With the broken Banpo Bridge forcing them to take a longer route, they've reached Yongsan City, where Mr. Han was supposed to disembark. Kim and Young-soo drop Mr. Han off at his destination. Mr. Han thanks them wholeheartedly for their help before parting ways. After saying goodbye, Kim starts thinking about how to breach the fortress. He wonders if he can bring all of Yuljiro City into his subspace. If he succeeds, perhaps he'll finally be able to reunite with his sister. But as soon as Kim realizes his situation, he notices something important. He needs 1,000 mana stones to level up his subspace, but he has only 400. However, Kim is shocked to see the 400 mana stones because just an hour ago, he had 0. In only 1 hour, Kim had managed to collect 400 mana stones. Kim thinks to himself that if he continues driving with Young-soo for just 2 more hours, he will easily gather the 1,000 mana stones he needs. But as Kim is processing this, Mr. Han looks at him from outside the portal and asks seriously if Kim and Young-soo can join him. Mr. Han explains that the government is providing support such as mana stones to help with the initial growth of awakened individuals like Kim and Young-soo. After hearing this, Kim thanks Mr. Han for the offer but firmly states that his family comes first. Kim's only mission is to rescue his family, and he can collect mana stones at a faster rate on his own than with any military assistance. Hearing this, Mr. Han pauses, recalling how effortlessly Kim had defeated so many orcs along the way and gathered mana stones. Mr. Han doesn't know what to say to convince Kim to join him. Kim then says something that startles Mr. Han. In a serious and smirking tone, Kim asks, "There must be a helicopter at the military base, right?" Mr. Han, surprised, confirms that the last time he was at the base, there was indeed a helicopter. The scene shifts to the military base, where the director is sitting in his room, deeply worried. He stares at a map, calculating the dire state of the government. He wonders if they can even claim that the government still exists, as nearly all their military units have been destroyed. Communication with other units is non-existent, and their attempts to handle the situation have been chaotic. Even the special unit of awakened soldiers is trapped amidst the monster attacks. The director doesn't know how to free them. As he is pondering this, another military officer enters and informs him that someone from outside wants to meet him. The director asks who it is. The officer explains that it's Mr. Han, commander of the 50th Battalion of the National Communication Agency, who says he has critical information. The director, surprised, immediately allows Mr. Han to enter. Mr. Han salutes the director and begins to explain everything, detailing how his entire unit was destroyed by a black dragon and how he discovered a traitor within the government. Mr. Han provides all the information he has gathered, leaving the director shocked. After hearing about Kim and Young-soo, the director becomes even more intrigued. Mr. Han mentions that Kim and Young-soo are waiting outside and need a helicopter. The director and Mr. Han head downstairs to meet Kim and Young-soo. The director bows his head in gratitude to Kim, thanking him for saving Mr. Han and bringing such crucial information. Kim, in his usual calm demeanor, says it was nothing special. He just did what any decent human being would have done. The director then brings up the matter of the helicopter. He mentions that he heard Kim needs a helicopter and is willing to provide supplies such as food, survival equipment, and medicine in exchange. However, the director explains that helicopters are strategically crucial assets and that it would be difficult to give one in exchange for just food. The director then offers a condition. If Kim and Young-soo join the military as awakened soldiers, the helicopter will be provided. The director explains that the government is struggling to stabilize the situation, and the addition of talented individuals like Kim and Young-soo would make it much easier to handle the crisis. Kim, apologetic but firm, responds that nothing is more important to him right now than rescuing his family. He respectfully declines the offer to join the military. The director, disappointed, explains that without joining the military, it will be impossible to provide a helicopter. Kim replies calmly, saying that he understands the importance of helicopters to the military and has no hard feelings. After saying this, Mr. Kim sits in his Jeep, wishing good luck to the military and expressing his hope that the situation outside will stabilize soon so that everyone can return to their normal lives. Until then, Mr. Kim wishes good health and luck to everyone before driving away. On the other hand, as the director sees Mr. Kim leaving, both he and Mr. Han become tense. Their motive to recruit Mr. Kim now seems uncertain. Meanwhile, Mr. Kim, seated in his Jeep, begins to consider his options. If the helicopter isn't possible, another solution must be found to reach Yuljiro City. Just as Mr. Kim starts to leave, the director calls out to him. Mr. Kim lowers the window, his expression serious, as the director offers a deal. If Mr. Kim fulfills a request, the director will arrange a helicopter for him. The scene shifts, showing the devastation of the city. Entire buildings are collapsed, streets are empty, and the remains of vehicles lie scattered. As Mr. Kim drives his Jeep, sipping juice, he begins recalling a flashback. The director had explained that awakened soldiers with combat abilities had formed an elite combat team and were sent to Yuljiro City. However, the team is now trapped in a building. Although they are still alive and in communication, they are severely injured and cannot return to base because skeleton monsters are blocking the roads. Hearing the name skeletons, Mr. Kim was surprised. The director elaborated, explaining that although the skeletons are not inherently dangerous, they are extremely hard to kill. Their bones are so durable that even rocket launchers fail to destroy them. Crushing them with tanks doesn't work either, as they revive themselves due to a magical stone in their hearts. Back in the present, Mr. Kim drives towards the building to rescue the trapped soldiers. In the distance, a group of skeletons approaches his Jeep, their eyes glowing menacingly. The director had tasked Mr. Kim with eliminating the skeletons and rescuing the soldiers. In return, Kim would receive the promised helicopter. Kim opens 3 portals, and from each portal, 100 kilograms iron pillars emerge, smashing the skeletons one by one like toys. The skeletons' bones fly through the air, shattered effortlessly. Sitting in the vehicle behind, military men are left speechless. They watch as Mr. Kim kills nearly 50 skeletons in a single attack, a feat that had previously seemed impossible. The scene shifts to the building where the awakened soldiers are trapped. Spotting reinforcements arriving, they cheer and shout with relief. Kim quickly rescues the soldiers, who pile into an empty military vehicle. The convoy, now consisting of 3 military trucks, moves forward with Kim leading the charge. Kim recalls another flashback. The director had warned him about a special skeleton monster, the Skeleton Knight. Unlike ordinary skeletons, the Skeleton Knight is on a completely different level. Wielding a shield and sword, this creature has single-handedly wiped out half the military men sent to Uljiro City. The director emphasized how the Skeleton Knight could cut through a rocket launcher like butter. Despite the warning, Kim continues moving forward. The Skeleton Knight appears in front of Kim's car. The director's instructions had been clear: avoid fighting this monster at all costs. But Kim decides otherwise. Opening a portal, Kim launches a 100 kilograms iron pillar at the Skeleton Knight with tremendous speed. However, the knight unsheathes his sword and, with a single slash, cuts the iron pillar into 2 pieces like butter. Seeing this, all the military men are shocked at how such a huge 100 kilograms iron pillar was sliced by the Skeleton Knight as if it were butter. Even Kim and Young-soo are stunned. On the other hand, the Skeleton Knight stands majestically like a warrior, his gaze unwavering. The Skeleton Knight begins to chant something in a strange language. The eerie sound echoes in the air, but Kim and Young-soo can't understand a word of it. Kim feels a growing curiosity mixed with unease. He wonders how this Skeleton Knight, seemingly dead, can speak. Suddenly, the Skeleton Knight raises a shimmering crystal in his bony hand and breaks it while muttering a magic chant. Immediately, Kim, Young-soo, and the others begin to understand the Skeleton Knight's speech. The skeleton warrior greets Kim with a deep, echoing voice, introducing himself as Guan, one of the 12 knights serving the Night King. Kim watches, awestruck, as Guan explains himself. Kim marvels at how this magic stone allowed the Skeleton Knight to speak the language of Earth. The Skeleton Knight turns to Kim, his bony finger pointing, and says that Kim's greeting, throwing an iron pillar, was quite interesting. He then questions Kim's intentions, demanding to know why Kim has intruded on the knight's territory. Guan reminds Kim that even during the early pioneer phase, there are rules and business ethics to be followed. Kim is baffled. He has no idea what Guan means by the pioneer phase or what these rules are. Frustration begins to bubble inside him, and in a fit of anger, Kim commands another 500 kilograms iron pillar to be hurled at Guan with incredible speed. But yet again, the Skeleton Knight slices through it like tofu with his sword. Kim smirks, his confidence still intact, and sarcastically remarks that these iron pillars are useless, calling them weak attacks that can't even scratch him. However, before Kim can finish his sentence, another 500 kilograms iron pillar is launched at the Skeleton Knight, sending him falling to the ground. But Guan, unyielding as ever, rises again. He stands tall, unharmed, not a scratch on his bony frame. His flaming eyes burn with rage as he asks Kim, "Is this your answer?" Before he can complete his taunt, another 500 kilograms iron pillar comes hurtling toward him. Guan slices it cleanly once more and begins marching towards Kim. Kim feels a pang of fear as the Skeleton Knight moves closer. Young-soo, watching from the sidelines, enters a panic mode and shouts to Kim, "What should we do now? He's coming for us!" Kim's mind races, worried about how Guan could easily cut through 500 kilograms pillars and remain unscathed. But then an idea sparks in Kim's mind. He quickly opens his inventory and uses 50 magic stones to unlock the tracking delivery system. This would allow him to precisely target his items. Kim commands Pax to aim the next iron pillar directly at Guan's chest. With a resounding command, Pax activates the system, and the iron pillar zooms towards Guan at lightning speed. The Skeleton Knight notices the incoming attack and smirks. He taunts Kim, calling him a foolish mage who thinks iron pillars can harm him. Guan braces himself, ready to cut the pillar once again. But just as Guan raises his sword to strike, the iron pillar suddenly changes direction mid-air. It smashes directly into Guan's chest with a deafening crash. Guan is sent flying far back, hitting the ground with a heavy thud. Despite the impact, Guan is unharmed. He throws the iron pillar aside like it's nothing and stands up again. Looking at Kim, he snarls, "Don't get cocky. I just let my guard down for a moment." Before Guan can finish his sentence, a yellow bowling ball comes flying at incredible speed and smacks him on the head. Guan barely registers what hit him before another bowling ball slams into his temple. Confused and frustrated, Guan tries to understand what is hitting him, but the attacks don't stop. Another bowling ball zooms in and hits his left eye. The scene shifts to reveal Pax following Kim's precise commands. Kim directs Pax to target Guan in a pattern. First, the left side of his head, then the back, then the front, then the crown, and finally his chest. The relentless bombardment of 10 kilograms bowling balls leaves Guan disoriented and furious. Every time Guan tries to dodge, another bowling ball hits him from a random angle. The precise targeting leaves him no chance to counter. Finally, Kim takes a deep breath of relief. On the sidelines, Young-soo watches in awe and shock. He can't believe how Kim managed to outsmart the Skeleton Knight. Young-soo, visibly relieved, turns to Kim and thanks him profusely for saving them once again. But Kim explains that they still need to wait and stay quiet. The Skeleton Knight hasn't been defeated yet. Kim clarifies that he's only temporarily stopped the Skeleton Knight. Kim further notes that the armor of the Skeleton Knight seems far tougher than the giant black wyvern they previously encountered. And with the Skeleton Knight wielding a shield and a sword, it's honestly more threatening than the wyvern. Meanwhile, the Skeleton Knight is unable to respond properly and merely tells Kim to stop the attack. Kim wants to talk to him, but before he can say anything, multiple bowling balls from various directions continue to smash into the Skeleton Knight's head, leaving a small crack in his skull. On the other side, Kim and Young-soo are discussing the evacuation plan. They decide that while the Skeleton Knight is distracted, they should ensure that all the military personnel are safely removed from the area. However, while talking, Young-soo notices something unusual. Pieces of the Skeleton Knight's armor are falling to the ground. Kim notices this as well. At first, Kim believed the armor was indestructible, but seeing those pieces fall sparks a brilliant idea. Kim tells the 500 kilograms iron pillar to attack the Skeleton Knight in the same spot where the bowling balls were hitting. The bowling balls, being small and high speed, had already weakened the Skeleton Knight's head by creating a crack. Kim theorizes that if the iron pillar strikes the same weakened spot, it could deal critical damage. As Kim commands the iron pillars to follow the same pattern as the bowling balls, the first iron pillar strikes the Skeleton Knight's head with a loud bang. The force causes the Skeleton Knight's body to shatter into pieces. His head flies off, and the skeleton warrior collapses dead. In his final moments, the Skeleton Knight declares, "You are an impressive mage, Kim. But don't think this is the end. Even in death, we serve the Night King." With that, the skeleton warrior falls silent. As soon as the skeleton warrior dies, 2 huge blue mana stones and a weird red mana stone fall to the ground. Kim immediately summons these items to his subspace. The system notifies Kim that he has obtained 2 large mana stone fragments and a reinforcement stone. Kim is surprised to see the reinforcement stone. Behind him, the military men are speechless. They cannot believe that Kim has defeated the Skeleton Knight. The soldiers marvel at Kim's abilities, saying that the skeleton warrior, who hadn't even flinched when hit by tank shells, was brought down by this fable-looking guy. The military men shower Kim with praise, declaring him a hero. The scene shifts, showing Kim entering the director's office. He has successfully freed all the military personnel. When the director hears that Kim has defeated the skeleton warrior, he is left speechless. The director reminds Kim that he had advised him to run away if he ever encountered the skeleton warrior. The director had never imagined that Kim would defeat such a formidable enemy. While the director knew Kim was an extraordinary awakener, he hadn't realized just how high level Kim truly was. The director expresses his admiration and gratitude, saying that once Kim has reunited with his family and ensured their safety, the director would like Kim to return to the military and assist him further. Kim reflects on the director's high expectations of him. While Kim is grateful for the praise, he knows the battle against the skeleton warrior was a close call. He admits to himself that if there had been even one more enemy like the Skeleton Knight, he wouldn't have survived. Kim recalls the skeleton warrior's ominous words, referring to himself as one of the 12 knights of the Night King. Kim wonders if there are 11 more knights just as powerful or even stronger lurking in the wild. As Kim follows the director, he begins to strategize. He realizes that the bowling balls were more effective than the iron pillars due to their small size, heavy weight, and incredible speed. The director interrupts Kim's thoughts, asking if he is heading to Yuljiro City. Kim confirms this. The director explains that high walls have risen around Yuljiro City, almost reaching the sky. The director reveals that he had sent many units to investigate Yuljiro City, but contact was lost. However, aerial inspections have confirmed that people are still active inside the city. The director assures Kim that his sister is alive inside Yuljiro City, so Kim shouldn't worry. Kim, thinking about his sister, feels confident that she is fine. In fact, Kim knows that his sister is more of a monster than the actual monsters. The director further explains that the walls around Yuljiro City are gradually forming a roof and that time is limited. Fortunately, the military can land Kim inside the city before it completely closes off. The director brings Kim to the rooftop, where a helicopter is waiting. At first glance, the helicopter appears old and run down, but before Kim can say anything, the director points to the left. Kim turns his head and is stunned. In front of him stands a shiny, double-sized Black Hawk helicopter, sleek and menacing. Both Kim and Young-soo are in awe. The moment Young-soo sees the helicopter, his inner truck-kun driver instinct kicks in. He smirks evilly and starts laughing excitedly, clearly eager to pilot the helicopter. Kim was also surprised. At the same time, the director begins to explain something, but Young-soo interrupts, laughing loudly. Young-soo turns to the director and says he is touched that the director is lending them a Black Hawk helicopter in such a dire situation. Young-soo is already very excited to fly it. The director laughs and remarks that he was wondering who would fly this Black Hawk, but it seems like Young-soo has experience flying such a vehicle. Before the director can finish his thought, Young-soo interrupts, "I've never flown a Black Hawk before." Young-soo then looks at his system notification and explains that while he's never flown a helicopter before, he feels like he'll be able to fly this one. As he inspects the helicopter, a notification appears in his system. It states that if Young-soo uses 50 magic stones, he will be able to register the Black Hawk to his system, and all the knowledge needed to fly the vehicle will be transferred to his mind. Young-soo enthusiastically shares this discovery with everyone. He explains that his ability, Best Driver, lets him handle any vehicle with ease. He can drive or pilot anything flawlessly. Until now, he thought his ability could only handle vehicles he'd driven in the past. But now it seems different. Instead of leveling up his ability, Young-soo realizes he must register each vehicle he wants to pilot into his system. This new understanding excites him. Hearing this, Kim is also amazed, and things begin to make sense. Kim reflects that even though they had killed countless monsters together, Young-soo's ability never seemed to level up. Now, it's clear that Young-soo's skill doesn't evolve in a traditional sense, it simply registers new vehicles. The director then surprises them by retrieving a suitcase from the Black Hawk. He opens it to reveal a collection of magic stone. The director places the suitcase in front of Kim and says there are 200 magic stones inside. The director admits he originally intended this as a surprise for their journey, but now offers the stones for Young-soo to register the Black Hawk. Hearing this, both Kim and Young-soo thank the director profusely. Young-soo wastes no time and quickly takes 50 magic stones to begin registering the Black Hawk into his system. Meanwhile, Kim feels a mix of gratitude and pressure at how much the director is giving them. As Young-soo completes the registration, he begins receiving a flood of information about flying the Black Hawk. He grows more excited, smiling evilly as if a demon lord had possessed him. Kim watches this transformation and a chill runs down his spine. Young-soo grins wickedly and tells Kim, "I've got this bad boy figured out." He then urges Kim to quickly board the helicopter, claiming he can't wait to fly it. Kim hesitates, nervous about Young-soo's overly excited demeanor. He reluctantly tells Young-soo that he trusts his ability, but nervously asks if Young-soo can fly slowly. Young-soo, maintaining his evil tone, laughs and says, "Slow? I don't do slow." Moments later, Young-soo jumps into the pilot seat, his excitement uncontainable. Kim, with tears forming in his eyes, takes his seat, knowing he's about to face a wild ride. Young-soo, like a mad scientist, starts pressing buttons and muttering to himself. He turns to Kim and says they still have a bit of time before departure, suggesting Kim mentally prepare. Kim finally accepts his fate and shifts his focus to what lies ahead. Kim knows that after entering the city, he will have to face many more skeleton knights. So, he decides to check his inventory and see how many magic stones he has. Kim needs to upgrade his subspace level. Kim starts thinking that if he upgrades his subspace level, there's a chance he might get a new skill. Opening his inventory, Kim uses 2 large mana stones and an enhancement stone. As soon as he uses them, the system notifies Kim that 2 large mana stones and 200 regular mana stones have been converted. Kim now has a total of 1393 mana stones. Kim is shocked to see so many mana stones in his possession, so Kim used 1,000 mana stone to upgrade his subspace to level 3. The system then notifies Kim that his subspace will be upgraded in a few minutes. While waiting for the upgrade, Kim decides to check his enhancement stone. The system explains that the Enhancement Stone is a D-grade item. Unlike regular mana stones, Enhancement Stones have been imbued with additional properties. Using the Awakening system, Kim can consume Enhancement Stones to bestow specific qualities into an object. The Enhancement Stone Kim has is imbued with the Fire property. Kim gets a spark of inspiration on how to use the Enhancement Stone. But now, the critical question arises: which item should be upgraded by Kim? The most important thing is that Kim does not know how much his ability will increase by upgrading an item with the Enhancement Stone. He considers his two main weapons for attacking, the bowling ball and the iron pillars. But whenever Kim used the iron pillars, the skeleton warriors would easily cut them. Only the bowling ball proved useful against them. That's why Kim decides to upgrade the bowling ball. As soon as Kim upgrades it, he gets a new item, the Fire Bowling Ball. The bowling ball is surrounded by lava-like flames and has two major abilities, Penetration and Ignite. After that, Pax asks Kim if he wants to register the Ignite Bowling Ball as a new item. Kim allows him to do so. As soon as Kim gives permission, Pax informs Kim that the time has come for their departure. Kim starts to mentally prepare himself, but before he can settle his nerves, Young-soo starts the helicopter. As the Black Hawk lifts off, Kim gets nervous. The director salutes Kim, expressing his hope that Kim will safely reunite with his family. The director also hopes that once Kim finds his family, he will return to the team. Kim gives a thumbs up and says goodbye to the director. At that very moment, the system notifies Kim that his subspace has been upgraded. There are now new unlockable items and additional enhancements ready for Kim. The system reveals that Kim can temporarily increase the shipping size limit for each item using magic stones. Kim begins looking at all his unlockable items one by one. But as soon as he sees his new skills, Kim's mouth falls open in shock, as if he has seen a ghost. On the other hand, the director notices Kim's expression. He wonders why Kim looks so shocked and worried. The director reflects on the 200 mana stones and the Black Hawk helicopter he provided to Kim. He believes that Kim should feel grateful. The director even thinks about how he will remind Kim of this help when Kim eventually returns to the military base. However, the director begins to worry if he might have made a mistake that caused Kim to look so concerned. Meanwhile, Kim is still astounded by his new skills. Kim's first unlockable skill is the Subspace Laboratory. This skill unlocks a transportation function with a slight healing effect. It allows Kim to heal naturally inside the laboratory. But the most significant part is that Kim can now register external objects in his subspace. However, the system notes that a separate registration fee will be consumed based on the value, size, and weight of the object. Kim finds this new ability to be a game changer. The biggest drawback of his subspace ability had always been its limitation to pre-registered targets. So far, Kim could only use the Logitech Center and military base items unlimitedly. But if Kim can now register any external object into his subspace, the potential is enormous. However, the system clarifies that Kim can only register items that fit into the two currently registered categories, Logitech Center and Military Base. Kim's eyes fall on the Black Hawk helicopter. He wonders if it qualifies under the Military Base category. To test this, Kim tries to register the helicopter in his subspace. The system informs him that it will require 107 magic stones. Kim confirms the registration. The scene shifts to the director. As he begins walking back to the military base, he suddenly hears the sound of the helicopter. Turning around, he sees Kim and Young-soo coming back. The director becomes nervous, suspecting something might be wrong with the helicopter. But before he can speak or think further, a large portal opens in front of him. A Black Hawk helicopter falls out of the portal. Not only that, another Black Hawk helicopter emerges from a second portal. As the two helicopters land in front of the director, Kim waves at him with a smirk before leaving. On the other hand, the director is left speechless. He does not understand what is going on. The director gave a little old Black Hawk to Kim, and in return, Kim gifted two brand new Black Hawk helicopters to the director. The director stands there, thinking about everything and growing increasingly worried. After that, the scene shifts. Finally, we see that Kim has entered the city. A huge fortress is being built there, slowly closing from above. The fortress is about to close. Then the scene shifts again, and we are shown a scary-looking castle. The entire interior of the castle exudes a dark, evil vibe. Sitting on a huge throne is the Skeleton King. We get a close-up of the Skeleton King as he speaks in a very serious, clicky tone. He says that no matter how much he thinks about it, he can't understand one thing. The entry permit level for the Earth dimension is only Tier 8 at best. For a higher tier being to come here, they have to lower their tier like the Skeleton King did. To think that a wizard known for his arrogance would come here, even accepting a tier reduction, is shocking. And on top of that, to invade the Skeleton King's territory and kill Guan. Here, the Skeleton King is talking about Kim. We learn that the Skeleton King is from another dimension and that Earth is an 8-tier dimension. To come to Earth, the Skeleton King greatly reduced his power. His purpose? To conquer Earth. The Skeleton King now believes that Kim, who killed Guan, is also a being from another dimension. A wizard who has come to Earth by reducing his power with the same goal: to take over Earth. On the right side of the Skeleton King, a purple flame begins to take the shape of a skull. It starts talking to the Skeleton King. The flame tells the Skeleton King that before Guan's death, Guan attempted to talk to the wizard, but the wizard killed him before he could say anything. This means the wizard is extremely dangerous. The flame advises the Skeleton King that the next time they encounter this wizard, they should kill him immediately without attempting to talk. The Skeleton King contemplates. He concludes that the wizard must be here for one reason: to take over this territory, just like the Skeleton King himself. But there can't be two tigers in one place. If the Skeleton King wants to capture this place, he must kill the wizard. The Skeleton King then mentions that they are nearly finished with something he calls the harvest. Once the harvest is complete, they will strike at the wizard. The flame reveals its name: Lancelot. Lancelot is a knight whose body is somewhere else, and he communicates with the Skeleton King through the flame. Lancelot then informs the Skeleton King that there is an invader heading toward their castle. The Skeleton King assumes it must be those bothersome toys again. He tells Lancelot to ignore them because they are going to die soon anyway. The scene shifts, and we see Kim and Young-soo enter the city. A bat-like monster appears but is quickly killed by Kim in one shot, using his Ignite bowling ball. Kim is very surprised by how powerful the bowling ball is compared to the iron pillar. While Kim is thinking about this, Young-soo calls out to him and says that it will be very difficult to land because there is a skeleton knight fighting a monster below them. Kim looks down and notices another skeleton knight, similar to the one he killed before. However, this one is different. Instead of a sword, he wields a pointy spear, the kind used by knights in ancient times. The skeleton knight uses magic, imbuing his spear with immense power. He unleashes a full-force attack at his opponent. We get a glimpse of a human figure. The figure looks feminine, and as soon as Kim sees her, he makes a strange, annoyed, and disgusted face. The human concentrates magic into her hand and, with a single impactful punch, sends the skeleton knight flying. Finally, we get a full look at the human. She indeed looks like a female, and damn, she has a good body. The skeleton knight genuinely falls from a great distance. Young-soo comments that they might have to face both monsters if they land now. Kim gets startled and, in shock, says that one of them is Kim's older sister. Hearing this, Young-soo is shocked. He asks which one is Kim's older sister. Kim reveals that the monster who threw away the skeleton knight is his older sister. We finally get a full look at Kim's older sister. She stands in a confident pose as the fog gradually fades, and damn, I must say, she have some thick muscles and goddamn heavenly body. Well, guys, everyone has to comment "mommy muscle" in the comments section. Kim's sister, clearly annoyed, says she felt the impact of her fist hitting the skeleton knight. But why won't the skeleton knight die no matter how much she beats the crap out of him? Kim begins narrating the backstory of his sister, Soul, who he refers to as Sister Number 2. He explains that as a child, Soul stumbled upon a mixed martial arts match on TV. She was instantly captivated by martial arts. Fortunately, she had a good little brother who supported her passion. Whenever Soul watched a martial arts match on TV, Kim would play with her, and Soul would practice all the martial arts moves she learned on Kim. Despite her efforts, Soul was often disappointed because victories against weaker opponents were not what she wanted. Driven by her ambition, Soul went to the playground to find stronger opponents. However, even the neighborhood kids, including those 3 years older than her, were no match for her. Soul beat everyone. Boys, girls, it didn't matter. Recognizing Soul's talent, Kim and Soul's father enrolled her in a mixed martial arts school. But this was where Soul faced her first defeat. Her teacher defeated her, but instead of being discouraged, Soul found the pain of losing fun. She had finally found a challenge worth pursuing. Soul's goal became to defeat her teacher, and along the way, she won several jiu-jitsu competitions. By 7th grade, she had no rivals in the junior division. Her passion for training and obsession with exercise led her to relentlessly work towards perfection. However, this obsession soon turned into a severe addiction. Eventually, Soul suffered an injury, tearing the cruciate ligaments in both her legs. Impatient with the recovery process, Soul resumed training too early and accumulated more injuries. She kept getting hurt and started training again before fully recovering. Finally, at the age of 24, Soul made her debut as a professional fighter. She could have debuted much earlier given her skill level, but her stubbornness and repeated injuries delayed her. Despite the late start, Soul is so powerful at her age that she can easily rank in the top 10 in all of Korea. Hearing this, Young-soo is shocked, but Kim reassures him that he doesn't need to be afraid of Soul. Kim suggests that Young-soo can land the helicopter slowly. However, Young-soo still looks at Soul from a distance and thinks that, as far as he can tell, Soul looks like a monster. Meanwhile, the skeleton knight slowly moves towards Soul with his sword and in a clicky voice asks why his attacks aren't reaching her. Soul casually responds, "Isn't it obvious? The skeleton's hands are too slow." The skeleton knight rebuts, saying his speed is not inferior to Soul's. He accuses her of using some weird technique that he doesn't understand. Soul laughs and explains, "It's not a technique, it's just martial arts." She says it so casually that it leaves the skeleton knight puzzled. Hearing this, the skeleton knight compliments her. He says that people like Soul are rare, and that if Soul raised her rank soon, she could become the greatest knight. Soul, however, doesn't understand what he's babbling about. Skeletons, knights, rankings, it's all nonsense to her. The skeleton knight continues, confessing that he has a big crush on Soul. He admires her strength and tells her that she doesn't need to worry. He promises to talk to the Skeleton King and ensure that Soul is the only one allowed to stay alive in the city. But before the skeleton knight can finish his speech, a fire bowling ball comes flying out of nowhere, and with a loud bang, smashes into the skeleton knight, shattering his body into pieces. The skeleton knight's body scatters around Soul. A moment later, the same fire bowling ball rolls to a stop in front of her. Soul, confused, wonders how this bowling ball destroyed the skeleton knight's body when her martial arts couldn't. As she contemplates, 2 large mana stones and an enhancement stone fall out of the skeleton knight's remains. The stones are quickly sucked into a portal that Soul doesn't understand. She sees what looks like a corn-like device pulling the stones in. At the same time, a helicopter hovers above her and slowly lands. Kim steps out, smirking, and greets her with a playful, "Hello, long time no see." Kim teases. As expected, Soul is still kicking some asses. He calls her sister number 2. Soul stands there, bewildered, her mouth wide open. She's shocked to see Kim after all this time. The scene shifts, and we see a table filled with delicious food. Fried rice, pizza, burgers, there's every type of mouth-watering dish imaginable. Joo-hee and Kim sit stunned, watching Soul devour the food like an animal. Joo-hee, unable to contain her curiosity, asks Soul if she's using some special ability to enhance her physical strength. Soul, while taking huge bites of chicken and pizza, responds casually, explaining that Joo-hee is half right and half wrong. Soul's physical abilities were naturally good. It wasn't related to the barrier. Soul explained that the barrier's only purpose was to prevent her from being attacked by the outside world. "That's all," Soul said casually. But as Soul continued eating vigorously, Joo-hee's patience snapped. "Eat slowly!" Joo-hee scolded. She warned Soul that if Soul didn't slow down, the food would get stuck in her throat and she'd end up with indigestion. Kim, watching the exchange, laughed lightly and told Joo-hee that it was pointless to explain to Soul. "Soul has been eating like this since childhood," Kim said with a resigned smile. Amidst this sibling banter, a good, happy, and emotional conversation unfolded between the 3 of them. Kim, with a genuine smile, told his 2 sisters that it was a relief that all 3 of them had awakened survival-related abilities and managed to survive this long. Now, Kim only needed to find their big brother. However, even as she ate, Soul looked at Kim and said with a hint of disbelief, "All this is fine, but Kim, your ability is like a cheat code. How the hell can you do all of this?" Kim chuckled and replied that it was a long story. He promised to explain everything to Sol slowly, but for now he urged Sol to eat and rest. Kim showed Sol how to use packs so that she could order whatever she wanted. He also mentioned that Young-Soo's family was in the subspace and suggested that Sol should go and say hello to them. Sol nodded in agreement, but then asked, "Are we leaving this city right now? Are we really leaving?" Kim stood up from his chair and replied, "Yes, we have to leave immediately. The city's ceiling is closing down at a very fast rate, and I don't know if this fortress will cover the entire city or not." Kim emphasized the urgency, saying that he needed to collect as many mana stones as possible before the ceiling closed completely. As Kim looked up at the sky, his heart sank. The ceiling was already closed. The entire area was shrouded in darkness. Kim didn't waste a second. He climbed aboard his Blackhawk, flew up to the sky, and launched 5 fire bowling balls at the fortress's walls at full speed. But despite the heavy attack, there wasn't even a slight dent in the fortress. Seeing this, Kim became worried. He thought to himself, after all that attack, not even a scratch? Kim considered his options. Should I take the entire city into my subspace? He wondered, but he quickly realized that he couldn't take such a massive structure randomly into his subspace. Kim reminded himself that he needed to be very careful. Kim had already used up all his remaining magic stones to increase the radius of his portal so that he could fit the Blackhawk inside. The portal's size now measured 19.76 meters. But because of this, Kim had no mana stones left. Kim thought about the skeletons and monsters in the city. If they existed, he could kill them and collect mana stones. But Kim also realized he didn't know what would happen to the people living in the city if he took the entire structure into his subspace. As Kim pondered these dilemmas, Sol spoke up from behind. "Seeing this situation, it looks very troublesome." After that, Sol tells Kim about her encounter with the Skeleton Knight. She explains how, just before his death, the Skeleton Knight said that he would spare Sol's life because he liked her. The knight mentioned that if Sol stayed in the city, her death would be prolonged. Kim asks Sol for more details, but Sol responds, "Before I could learn more, you split the Skeleton Knight into pieces." Sol adds that she still doesn't know how exactly she would have died if she stayed in the city. The Skeleton Knight had only said he would speak to the Skeleton King about sparing her life. After hearing this, Kim realizes that if he wants to escape the city, he must confront the Skeleton King. The real question was, how to find the Skeleton King in such a vast city? Kim doesn't have any clues, but before he can figure it out, the Demon King inside Young-Soo awakens. With a deep, evil smile, Young-Soo declares, "I only need 5 minutes. Within 5 minutes, I'll find the Skeleton King's castle." Kim immediately understands the chaos about to unfold. "Stop screaming, Young-Soo!" Kim shouts, but it's too late. Young-Soo was already in his demon form. Young-Soo does something insane. He flips the helicopter a full 360 degrees and announces, "I'll search every nook and cranny of this city." The helicopter twists and turns like a snake, moving right, left, up, and down, covering every corner of the city. Inside the helicopter, Kim's condition worsens. He grips his seat, dizzy and nauseous, while Sol looks out calmly. The scene shifts to the Skeleton King. Lancelot informs him that Lionheart, who was obliterated by Kim's fire bowling ball, is dead. Lancelot explains that Lionheart's defeat happened in one hit, indicating it was the work of a powerful enemy. The Skeleton King is furious. He shouts that the harvest is right around the corner and this intruder is interfering with his plans yet again. Filled with rage, the Skeleton King declares that he will personally kill the intruder. He demands Lancelot tell him where the intruder is, but Lancelot calmly informs him that there's no need. The intruder is coming to the Skeleton King's castle. Hearing this, the Skeleton King laughs. From within the castle, the Skeleton King sees Kim's helicopter flying toward him. At first, the Skeleton King is confused, expecting a wizard. But after observing Kim, the Skeleton King remarks in a serious tone that this doesn't look like a wizard. Instead, it appears to be an undead. Well, you know it's bad when the undead thought you are undead. But the Skeleton King doesn't care. Wizard or undead, whoever has ruined his plans won't be left alive. The scene shifts again, and we see a huge door leading to the Skeleton King's room. The interior of the castle is filled with bat monsters stuck to the walls. They are lying in wait to attack any intruders. The huge door opens and Kim enters the room. He is in bad shape. It looks like a ghost. In a weak voice, Kim says that he will never riding a helicopter again. The motion sickness was on another level, but suddenly from behind, Soul notices something. She comes running at full speed and calls out to Kim, but Kim, still dizzy, opens his eyes to see a huge, fat, six-pack abs bat monster about to bite his neck with its sharp teeth. At the right moment, Soul lifts her thick-ass muscles, and with a single devastating punch, she tears apart the bat monster's body. All of a sudden, due to the attack of the bat monster, Kim's dizziness disappears. He quickly says thanks to his sister, but Soul cringes at the word and tells him to stop saying thanks. However, Soul's attention is suddenly drawn elsewhere. She notices something strange. Soul begins to carefully scan the entire dark chamber, her expression serious. She mutters that there is something more. Kim, confused, tries to understand what Soul means, but he can't see anything. For him, the hallway ahead looks completely empty with no sign of monsters. But then, from the dark hallway, a sea of red, shiny eyes appears. These bat-like eyes begin to glare menacingly at Kim, Young-soo, and Soul. Kim's heart races as he realizes the danger. He turns to Young-soo, his voice filled with urgency, and tells him to retreat to the subspace. Kim is worried. How could he possibly face so many monsters alone? But then he remembers he isn't alone. Soul, the martial arts fanatic, is with him. Soul's smirking smile grows even wider as she observes the waves of monsters emerging from the darkness. She says with an excited tone that this is how it should be. One monster wasn't enough for her, it would have been boring. As the tension builds, Soul's evil smile deepens. Without hesitation, she charges into the dark hallway at an incredible speed. Kim barely has time to react before Soul leaps into the air. Her movement is flawless, her body lithe and powerful. With a resounding bam, Soul lands, crushing the head of a bat monster beneath her foot. She enjoys every moment of it, her smirk turning demonic. One by one, Soul slashes, crushes, and tears through the bat monsters with an almost playful fury. Suddenly, a bat monster attacks from behind, sinking its teeth into Soul's neck. But Soul doesn't even flinch. Instead, she grabs the monster by the head, slamming it into the ground with such force that it shatters into pieces. As Soul continues her frenzied slaughter, the ground becomes soaked with blood. She laughs loudly, like a madwoman, reveling in the chaos. Meanwhile, the other bat monsters begin to shake in fear, their confidence waning. Kim watches from a distance, awestruck and concerned. He knows Soul is enjoying the fight, but he also realizes he can't help her directly without risking harm. His mind races for a solution, and then his eyes fall on the subspace laboratory. An idea sparks. Kim retreats to his portal, leaving Soul to handle the monsters. Inside the subspace, Kim starts assembling a strange machine. Meanwhile, Soul continues her destructive rampage, kicking a bat monster with such force that its skull cracks. The machine Kim is building is an electric pest repellent designed to attract and shock monsters to death. Once activated, it will pull all the bat monsters toward it and kill them instantly. Kim, now sitting comfortably in a reclining chair within his portal, watches as the machine begins its work. Bat monsters are drawn to the device, and one by one they fall dead as the electric shocks take effect. Soul notices the machine and becomes annoyed. She yells at Kim, "Is this your way of fighting? It's boring." Kim responds calmly, saying he just wants to help his sister. But Soul, clearly irritated, scolds Kim, telling him to stop interfering in her fight. She insists on fighting alone. Kim, equally frustrated, yells back, "If you want to fight, fine, but be careful and stop taking unnecessary risks." The brother and sister engage in a heated but healthy argument, even as chaos ensues around them. Meanwhile, outside the dark chamber, Lancelot is having a serious conversation with the Skeleton King. Lancelot informs him that the wizard outside is Strain. Lancelot explains that the wizard isn't alone. There's another warrior with him who is as strong as Lancelot himself. What's more, the wizard is using unlimited items and employing weird, non-mana-based tools. Hearing this, the Skeleton King becomes very annoyed. He growls in frustration, realizing that defeating a wizard was already challenging enough, but now there's another powerful fighter to contend with. The Skeleton King, deep in thought, mutters that he has no other option. Lancelot, however, warns him that summoning additional power might bring the wrath of the Chamber of Commerce upon them. Despite the warning, the Skeleton King says he have no other choice, because the wizard is at least 8th rank tier, the same rank as the Skeleton King. However, while the Skeleton King might be able to defeat the wizard alone, the presence of another 8th rank tier warrior makes the situation far more challenging. The Skeleton King knows he cannot win alone. He must summon Lancelot. With this thought, the Skeleton King extends his hands forward and begins to chant ancient spells. The holographic skull of Lancelot disappears, and in its place, the Skeleton King finds 3 reinforced stones instead of just 1. He begins to circle the stones around the projection of Lancelot's skull. Intense mana starts to gather around the projection, signaling the power of the summoning. The scene shifts to the team's subspace. Inside, electric appliances and copper wires are scattered around. The team is busy working on a project. They grab an aluminum rod and wrap it with thick copper wire. With this, they create a new weapon, the baseball bat repellent stick, a semi-rare grade weapon. This weapon is specially made for Soul. Holding it, Soul's face lights up with joy. The bat has an electrified feature, meaning it can do double damage to enemies. Soul spins the weapon around with excitement, testing its strength and enjoying every moment. After leaving the subspace, Soul tells Kim that his ability is a scammer ability. Kim can make any item with ease, and Soul thanks him for creating such a powerful weapon. She remarks that the Electric Club will be great for battling monsters. However, Soul gives Kim a final warning. This time, Kim must not interfere in her fight. She wants to kill all the bat monsters alone. As soon as Soul steps out of the subspace, she starts scratching her neck. Concerned, Kim asks if Soul is hurt. Soul explains that ever since the bat monster bit her neck, she hasn't felt any pain, but now her neck itches. She mentions receiving a system notification in the subspace, stating that all impure energy has left her body. This makes Kim tense. He wonders if Soul might become a vampire due to the bite. Soul jokingly tells Kim that if she does turn into a vampire, she wants him to kill her. She adds that she wouldn't want to live as a vampire lady. The two share a brief, humorous moment. Meanwhile, the Skeleton King turns to Kim and threatens him. He sarcastically remarks that the name Arcane must be crying because of Kim's actions. Skeleton King accuses Kim of ruining his plan and causing a ruckus in his territory. He continues, stating that even if Kim is from the arcane dimension, he has no right to interfere in someone else's domain. The Skeleton King declares that he will now fight and kill Kim. Kim and Soul exchange a glance, baffled by the King's rambling. Kim mutters that this idiot makes no sense. Hearing the word idiot, the Skeleton King becomes furious. With a roar, he calls out to Lancelot, instructing him to kill Kim and Soul immediately. The next moment, Lancelot is finally summoned. His appearance is terrifying. He has 4 glowing eyes and wears heavy silver armor. In his hand, he wields a huge, massive sword. Soul, seeing Lancelot, becomes excited. She was bored of fighting weak monsters and now has a challenge. She turns to Kim and warns him not to interfere in this fight. "If you interfere, it won't be right," she says, before charging towards Lancelot. Before Soul can fully engage, Lancelot lunges forward and throws his sword at her, aiming to cut her in half. Soul dodges the attack with her electrified magic bat, and the impact of the clash is so powerful that Kim feels it from afar. However, as the fight progresses, Soul notices that Lancelot is slowly cutting her bat in half. Realizing the danger, she quickly retreats. With one powerful slash, Lancelot splits the magic bat into 2 pieces. Soul looks at Kim and jokingly remarks that her bat wasn't weak. It's just that Lancelot is too strong. Despite the loss of her weapon, Soul is undeterred. Finally, we get a full view of Lancelot, and it's clear that he is a threatening and formidable knight. On the other hand, the Skeleton King declares with confidence that he has summoned Lancelot, the strongest knight under his command. Meanwhile, Kim reflects on Soul's words, realizing that it's rare for her to acknowledge an opponent's strength. If Soul has admitted that Lancelot is strong, then Lancelot is truly dangerous and formidable. Looking at Soul, Kim proposes a deal. If Soul manages to kill Lancelot, will she give Kim Lancelot's magic stone? Kim argues that he has used up all his magic stones to craft weapons for Soul, and since Lancelot has destroyed those weapons, it seems fair to repay Kim with the magic stone. However, Soul flatly refuses, and declares that whoever kills Lancelot first will claim ownership of the magic stone. With a smirking confidence, she adds that Lancelot can do nothing to stop her. Kim, determined to contribute, activates his Ignite bowling ball and hurls 5 high-speed, fiery bowling balls toward Lancelot. But Lancelot stands casually, unfazed. As if swatting away a nuisance, Lancelot draws his sword and with a single slash cuts through all the bowling balls as if they were nothing. As the balls split, a hot, lava-like liquid oozes out. Kim doesn't stop there. He throws bowling balls from multiple directions, hoping to overwhelm Lancelot, but Lancelot treats the attacks like child's play, slicing through the incoming balls like tofu. Seeing this, Kim's mouth hangs open in shock. He is stunned by Lancelot's agility and precision. How could someone cut through high-speed magic bowling balls so effortlessly? While Lancelot is occupied cutting the bowling balls, Soul seizes the opportunity and dashes forward. She punches Lancelot's face with all her might, but to her dismay, Lancelot does not take even 1% damage. In retaliation, Lancelot swings his sword, aiming to slash Soul's neck. Soul barely dodges the attack and counters with punches to Lancelot's face and chest. Yet Lancelot remains unharmed. Kim sees his chance and launches another Ignite bowling ball directly at Lancelot's head. This time, Lancelot is hit full force and is thrown far away, but even then, Lancelot is unharmed. He stands up, glaring at Kim with threatening eyes, not a single scratch on him. Kim, feeling uneasy, begins to suspect something is terribly wrong. He recalls the same ominous feeling he had when facing the Black Wyvern. His sixth sense tells him that this fight is not what it seems. Without hesitation, Kim activates his subspace and pulls Soul into it. Soul, furiously angry, demands to know why Kim interfered. Kim explains that he felt an unshakable sense of danger. Even after using his strongest attack, Lancelot remained untouched. Kim compares the situation to his past battles. His strongest attack was enough to cut the Skeleton King into 2 pieces in one blow, yet it did nothing to Lancelot. Soul, though reluctant, admits that she cannot defeat Lancelot alone. Lancelot, however, has no intention of waiting. In an insanely fast movement, he disappears from his previous position and appears in front of Kim's barrier, slamming his enormous sword against it. Kim is genuinely terrified by Lancelot's blinding speed and sheer strength. Even Soul admits that Lancelot is dangerous. If this fight continues, both Kim and Soul will die. Despite Lancelot's relentless attempts, he fails to break the barrier. Kim, however, notices something. Lancelot is very close to the barrier. A dangerous idea strikes him. If he launches his Ignite fireballs at such a close range, Lancelot will not be able to dodge. Kim wastes no time. He sends 5 high-speed fireballs directly toward Lancelot. But to his horror and amazement, Lancelot easily cuts through all the fireballs, even at point-blank range. The situation grows even more dire. Lancelot is not just strong, he is unstoppable. Seeing this, Kim is genuinely surprised. He thinks that it doesn't make any sense. Lancelot is so overpowered, strong, and fast that no attack is working on him. Kim observes how easily Lancelot is cutting through all the heavy metal as if it were butter. On the other hand, the Skeleton King watches the fight from behind. Finding the entire scene dull, the Skeleton King remarks how boring this fight has become. With a smug tone, the Skeleton King taunts Kim, questioning how long he plans to hide behind his barrier. He declares that Lancelot is a 7th-tier warrior immune to all of Kim's abilities. According to him, no matter what Kim does, he can't defeat Lancelot. The Skeleton King sits arrogantly on his throne and reminisces. He reveals that he invested all his resources and wealth to come to Earth and thought summoning Lancelot was necessary to survive against Kim and Soul. However, now, as he watches their futile attempts, he expresses his disappointment. If the Skeleton King had known how weak they were, he wouldn't have taken the risk of summoning Lancelot in the first place. As the Skeleton King watches closely, he notices something unusual. Kim is not using any magic. Instead, Kim is launching strange, weird items from his portal in an unlimited supply. Realizing this, the Skeleton King's eyes light up as he begins to form an idea. Kim, on the other hand, doesn't know what to do. He checks all his abilities: Subspace Laboratory, Replicate Extra-Large Subspace Life Support, but none seem useful to defeat the Skeleton King or Lancelot. Kim resorts to throwing Ignite bowling balls at Lancelot repeatedly, but Lancelot continues to cut through them effortlessly. Kim genuinely feels stuck. Suddenly, the Skeleton King laughs loudly. He commands Lancelot to halt his attacks, declaring that the two in the portal are not wizards, but potential partners for the Skeleton King's future plans. Lancelot, obeying the Skeleton King, retreats and approaches him. The Skeleton King walks away from his throne and slowly approaches Kim's portal. Initially, the Skeleton King thought Kim and Soul were wizards, but now, observing Kim closely, he realizes that they are normal humans. What's more, Kim has a very interesting ability. Kim, confused, wonders what the Skeleton King is talking about. The Skeleton King, with a sly grin, begins to explain. He mentions that Kim must have encountered skeleton knights on his way and likely killed 2 of them to obtain reinforced stones. These reinforced stones, the Skeleton King reveals, are produced only in this castle, a place known as Camelot. The Camelot Castle has a unique ability to create reinforced stones by sacrificing living beings. The Skeleton King shares that his original plan was to sacrifice the humans in the city to produce a large number of reinforced stones, which he would then use to summon an army of skeleton knights. But he proposes a business partnership with Kim. The Skeleton King suggests that Kim, with his unlimited copying ability, can duplicate the reinforced stones. Together, they could rule the entire Earth or even the universe. Kim stands there silently, processing the offer. While the Skeleton King laughs evilly at the prospect of his grand plan, Kim suddenly starts laughing and crying simultaneously. The Skeleton King is bewildered. Kim thanks the Skeleton King, saying that the Skeleton King has unknowingly solved all of Kim's problems. Before the Skeleton King can react, Kim speaks the 4 magical words, Pax, put Camelot in subspace. In an instant, the entire castle vanishes before the Skeleton King's eyes. Camelot Castle, the source of his power, shrinks and disappears into Kim's subspace. The Skeleton King and the Skeleton Knights are left standing outside, confused and furious. The Skeleton King looks around, trying to comprehend where his grand fortress went. As the Camelot Castle appears in Kim's hands, shrunken to the size of a toy, Soul casually remarks how small and insignificant it looks. Fuming with rage, the Skeleton King bellows, "How dare you, 9th-tier slave bastards!" He accuses Kim and Soul of ruining his lifelong plan and vows to kill them all. In his anger, the Skeleton King summons a purple ball of dark energy filled with the souls of the dead. The green, ghostly souls shoot toward Kim's portal, attempting to break through. But as the smoke clears, Kim and Soul remain unharmed. Kim, now calm, starts pondering. He remembers the name of the Skeleton Knight summoned by the Skeleton King, Lancelot. Kim decides to try something bold. He calls out Lancelot's name, attempting to summon him. To everyone's astonishment, Lancelot appears in front of Kim. But this time, Lancelot is not surrounded by his usual dark aura. Instead, he radiates a warm, golden light. Lancelot turns to Kim, acknowledging him as his new master. Kim orders Lancelot to kill the Skeleton King. Without hesitation, Lancelot immediately draws his sword, and with one swift and powerful slash, he cuts the Skeleton King clean into 2 pieces. The Skeleton King, unable to react or defend himself, is defeated instantly. With a display of overwhelming power, Lancelot ends the fight with elegance and precision. And with that, the episode concludes here. Don't forget to like this video to help us reach the goal of 7,000 likes. Also, let us know in the comments which part of the episode was your favorite. As revealed, Kim now wields the amazing ability to summon unlimited soldiers, making his journey even more thrilling. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and join us for more exciting episodes. See you in the next one. Till then, goodbye!
南の島はあったけパイナップルプル頭ポカポカアホバー